everybody, I'm Lex Lutz and welcome to Capeside Chats. I'm here with Simon, who is my #1 fan. That's the best thing that, no, I'm just kidding. Simon is the host of Ravens and the Mighty 90s and the Mighty Ravens now, which is expanded. That's what we're under. He is awesome and British, and even though he likes red vines, I let him have a pass on that. I let him have a pass. All right. How you doing, Simon?
That was good. I will tell people I pressured you to give a big intro because I always give you the big intro on our podcast. So this is the first time I think I've ever been introduced also because I'm always the one introducing. So it was good. And yes, red vines. I enjoyed them.
Okay. Twizzlers, Team Twizzlers. Let us know. This is a discussion going on with Ravens. And let's extend it to Capeside Chats.
I feel like Dawson would be a red vine guy. Yeah.
He fucking would. That's okay. Pacey is team Twizzlers.
They're so wet though. Right?
I don't like that description of them, but
they're moist. They're moist. When you have a red vine, it's like dry, you know what you're doing. It does kind of
it's
paste
like plastic. Mouth, it's like plastic. You're describing eating. Oh, I can't do it again. We can't get into it. Go listen to, what was it, season 2, episode 19 of Ravens, and you'll hear us yell at each other about
that. Well, yes, I'm good. How are things with you?
Pretty good. You know, it's very hot here. I don't know how bad it is there, but I'm in the South. So
it's raining here and it's meant to be summer, but we're officially 2 weeks away from COVID freedom, is what they're calling it. Freedom Day here on the 19th of July, which coincidentally is my birthday, is the day of all of the restrictions are going, like no masks, no social distancing, nothing. People can just do whatever they want, which terrifies me, to be honest.
I'm still wearing a mask, I have to say, and I'm vaccinated. I am. Other than that, though, I go out, but it's like when I'm inside in a place, like if I go in a coffee shop or if I have to go in somewhere, I have to drop something off UPS, whatever, I still wear a mask. And I know they say you don't have to, but these variants and stuff, I don't know.
So wait, what's the deal in America? Is it state by state, or is it just
It is state. Yeah, it's state by state, although the national mask mandate has been lifted if you're vaccinated, if I'm not mistaken. And now, even in states, there are different counties that do different things. So it's like, whatever. So some places are now saying, like, we would rather you wear a mask coming into, like, if they're a local business or whatever, but they're not forcing it.
Right. And what are the levels like the COVID levels?
What do you mean? We don't have levels like that.
I guess because it's easier for us because we're a smaller country, I guess, but we have like daily death rate, daily infection rate, daily vaccine. Like I think the lowest we got down to is, maybe we had one. I think we've had one day where there was 0 deaths. I might have that wrong. It might be that there was one, but we're at about 15 deaths a day at the moment, and about 2,000 people in hospital. But there's only 60 million people in our country. In England, I think it's like 80 million in the UK. But
right.
So you don't have it like that.
Right. We're at over 300. So
yes.
So no, like I don't know the rates and everything like that. I only keep track, like, and honestly, I can't follow the news with it. Like, it gets too heavy for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I just kind of, I keep an eye out if like there's a variant that's messed up or something,
But I guess this is the perfect segue, because where we would all want to live in an ideal world is Capeside, right? Where COVID doesn't exist. None of these bad things exist. Just drama.
Bad things. Yeah, bad things exist, but not the same types of bad things.
this season just had so much drama. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
put it into fifth gear and then it just never came down. So wait,
Mm-hmm.
firstly, before we start, I just have to say, if you're new to this, on my Instagram, Simon Podcast, there'll be a link below and link to Lex's Instagram and Lex and Matt's Excellent Adventure, the Mighty Ravens, the Ravens, all of that stuff. All of our podcasting social links will be below. But on my Instagram, every single episode, I've been doing live commentary as I've watched every episode of season 2 and season 1, but it's all saved on my highlights. So if you want to go back and check it out, it's there. I think I'm doing okay. It's kind of a
Yeah,
hard
it's
thing.
fun.
I've never seen anyone do this before. I kind of just make it up as I go, but it's fun and it's great to interact with the followers and listeners and friends and people on there. And everyone's so great. They don't spoil me with anything. And I get so many messages when I've got something right with a prediction or
Mm-hmm.
something, or when I've got it horribly wrong, which happened a few times in this
Yeah.
season. Yeah, it's great. I mean, how do you find it, knowing everything that you know and then seeing
It's
that stuff?
I'd imagine it's fun if you're like if you've never seen it as well, and like you're like, oh, that's an interesting prediction. Well, here's my prediction. It's way more fun to watch someone who has never seen it do this. So, I mean, it's the same way that the dynamic that you and Dom have, like how exciting it is to see Dom's reactions to these big things that happen on One Tree Hill. But yeah, it's really fun to like, and I enjoy checking in with it. I was actually like, I was away in Maryland, and I think you had started watching it back up because you had to take a break, and I was like, oh shit, what's he on, what's it like? It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's yeah, so much more to go. And yeah, so much happened this season. I've said
I mean,
already, I know.
you're a third of the way through the show though.
Right, which means we're a third of the way through this podcast at the end of this,
Mm-hmm.
because we're doing one per season. And so if anyone's listening to this without seeing the first one, the first episode is available on YouTube and then on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere, under the Mighty Ravens, like Lex said, which is the umbrella that houses, these shows. And yeah, so you'll find the audio of this and the video here. Um, but we're gonna have to do a 7th episode, because
Right.
we need to do, at the end of it, One Tree Hill comparison to Dawson's Creek, and talk about it,
Yes.
like talk about the
And
difference in legacy, the difference in creation, all of it, because that's so
and
interesting.
we're going to discuss that, especially this season as we go. Like, I think there are a lot of similarities, and we're going to have some polling that you guys can participate in that are going to be similarities between specifically season 2 of One Tree Hill and season 2 of Dawson's Creek. So yeah, I'm fully on board with that. That's awesome, like for sure. But it is interesting to be like, oh no, you're like a third of the way through the show. Like you got through season 2. So season 2 is, first of all, let's just start with this. Season 2 is twice as long, pretty much, as the first season. Did you feel okay with that? Like, did you feel like that it was too long? Was it just long? Like, was it okay? Was it more what you're used to? Because One Tree Hill has always been roughly the same amount of episodes per season. I think this one was 22. Usually One Tree Hill does 22, 23.
Yeah, it was 22.
22, yeah.
I think what surprised me the most is, and I guess in a phrase, is that I fucking loved it. Like all of it. Like I couldn't get enough. And it's kind of this odd, generally I was watching it at about 6:30 in the morning, because I was timing it with my son's first nap. Like he would wake
Mm-hmm.
up and then I'd like rock him to sleep and he'd go down, and then I'd have this like 45-minute window. And so it's kind of an odd thing watching TV that early in the morning. I think you're like a bit more emotional than normal. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, if you watch TV or movies on a plane, they say that the altitude like makes you a bit more, and the fear of death
Oh.
because you're like 30,000 feet in the air, you know.
Oh, interesting.
I think it
Yeah.
makes you a bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that if I wasn't doing it for Instagram, I would have got through it so much
Agreed.
quicker.
Yeah.
But because what I never wanted to do was to start posting about it and then have to stop because like our son is crying, or because I've got something come up with work, or I just fall asleep or something or whatever. So there's a bit more pressure to be alert and to have this exact slot. But I think it was kind of nice in a way because it spread it out a bit longer. I mean, it's probably taken me about a month, maybe something like that.
Roughly, yeah. Yeah.
But I think that if I was able to just watch it in bed and watch like three in a row at night, I think I would have got it done in like a couple of weeks. But I mean, what do you think about the length of the season?
I mean, I think it's great. It's what I'm used to. I always forget that that first season is shorter. And when I go back and watch, I'm like, oh yeah, it's only 13 episodes because every season after is this. It's this like 22 roughly episodes per season. So yeah. I think the length is great. I think it works really well. There doesn't feel like a lot of filler, and I don't think season 2 suffers in the way that One Tree Hill suffers in season 2, like comparing them. I know we have a lot of listeners who are Ravens listeners jumping over to this, so I think that's a. And there are a lot of, you said at one point that like One Tree Hill kind of steals stuff from this show, and
So
yeah,
much.
they do.
So much. But I think what I'm concerned about, and it is a concern, is that I've seen One Tree Hill so many times. I think this is technically like, I think it's my sixth rewatch for the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and we watch every episode twice. So it's really
Yep.
like 6 and 7,
Yep.
and I love it, but it's taking a long time. It's not like when you watch it normally and you get through it quite quickly. And I've been enjoying Dawson's Creek more than I have been One Tree Hill, but I think it's because it's new. I don't know what's going to happen. There's been
Yeah.
so many twists and turns and character changes, and it's like I have no idea. And you kind of forget that allure of being a first time viewer. Like it's hard for me to remember what it was like with One Tree Hill as a first time viewer because it was
Right.
like 10 years ago or something like that. So I mean, and then there's times where there's like episodes in particular, and there's so many in this season where I was like, oh, I wish we were doing full podcast episodes for each
Yeah.
one. But yeah, no, I mean, how you prefer Dawson's Creek to One Tree Hill, right? You see it as the OG.
I do. For me, it is. It's the first one that I watched. It's the first one that I really got into. That it's hard to say, like, because I love One Tree Hill so much. It's hard to be like, oh, I love Dawson's Creek more. But I mean, I usually do. I usually prefer it. I think, and I think what it comes down to is at the end of the day, and I think I talked about this in the first episode, is it's the most relatable of them. Of like being, it's more grounded. It's more, and it maintains that. One Tree Hill gets insane. You know,
Yeah.
in a great way, in a really fun way, and to be on almost twice as long as Dawson's Creek was, you have to. But yeah, there's just something about this show that's like, it's cozy. It's like and I think it's going to be hard for you to judge how you feel about it versus One Tree Hill until after you've watched it again. I think that's going to be a big factor because you've seen, like you were saying, it's new to you, but you've seen One Tree Hill numerous times, so it's hard to compare the two. But it's a solid rewatch. Dawson's Creek rewatch, like it's one of my comfort shows to rewatch, like One Tree Hill.
I thought that already. I thought, I'm looking forward to rewatching this and having
Mhm.
the comfort of just being able to like binge through them. I will say what I think is interesting as well is that the big pull for me with One Tree Hill was the sport element. Like it
Mm-hmm.
influenced me personally into me playing basketball, coaching basketball, and things with my career and things that been over on in detail on Ravens. And I think what's an interesting time period is I haven't played basketball for about a year and a half because of COVID. Like our season ended and then COVID started, and I've been struggling to play. Like I'm able to play again now, but I
Right.
don't want to. I've kind of lost wanting to do it because I've got into other things and podcasting and family and whatever. And maybe it's a fear of COVID and close contact sport. I don't know.
I think a lot of us are having, COVID anxiety or PTSD. We definitely have something going on. So that's a huge factor as well.
For sure. And I'm sure eventually I'll get over that and get back into it. But it's interesting because I'm not having that interest at the moment. And that's something that's kind of synonymous with like my personality or identity, or it was for a few years, there, when now I don't have that. And the drama of Dawson's Creek and the emotion is kind of more, it's been an emotional year, for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, it seems to kind of tie in with the time. And then you actually said, when we were just like messaging, about how you like the idea that I'm watching it like while my son is like sleeping. It's kind of like going to always be synonymous with that time period of
Mm-hmm.
like remembering him being 6 months old, and it being putting him to, it's like kind of like connecting to like a special time
Yeah.
period that makes the show more than
When
personally
my
special.
when my brother would get up with my oldest niece, so his first daughter, first child, would get up with her in the same way, like, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, we didn't grow up around babies. I was the youngest, but there was like an 8-year age difference, so he wasn't quite old enough. 8, almost 9-year age difference. He wasn't quite old enough to like take care of me in that way when I was a little baby. So he's like, I don't know what to do with this baby. So he would sit on the couch and he would just tell her Star Wars scene by scene and things like that. So like I think that you have those associations, and it's very cool. And I think it's going to be a sentimental viewing for that reason. And I view Dawson's Creek in a very sentimental way as well, but for totally different reasons. So it's kind of cool that you have that.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. What how do you want to dissect this then? How do you want to do it?
Okay. Well, last time we did character by character, which by the way, we do have season 2 out for display here. This is the
Excellent.
cover. I know you're big on, can I show you? Yeah, that's safe. I don't know why I would question it, but notice that Jack and Andy are on here.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
would you
Jack.
like to talk about the core four, one of the core four, or would you like to talk about our new characters, which are Jack and Andy?
Oh, I don't know. You choose.
um, I almost want to talk about Jen early because I think that Jen starts in a very, very rough place. By the end of the season, though, you love her.
Do we
Do
though?
you? Yes. Yeah.
I'm joking. I come round to Jen. I come round
Yeah.
to by the end.
I
Yeah.
I think you need this season with Jen. I think you need the crash and burn. I mean, she crashes hard in this season. And she needs it too. Like, you feel that she needs to go through the worst of the worst to lose everything, kind of thing, to put you in this like position of, because like, it sounds bad, but like, what purpose does her character serve when she's not the object of Dawson's desire? She's thinking this too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not the girl he wants anymore. So like, what is her place in all of this? Well, she finds her place as a friend, as a granddaughter. Her, once again, struggling with religion, continual like storyline. I like Jen more in season 3. I will say I'm watching season 3 now, so I'm like, it's Jen. But like, but and you're going to, it's going to be interesting to see. I will tell you in advance that much like One Tree Hill, my favorite seasons of Dawson's Creek, 3 and 4. I don't know which one I will rank higher. As we podcast about it, I will figure that out, I guess. But yeah, so it was a struggle to watch Jen this season, and that's why I'm like, let's kind of, I think Jen and Andy are the two most difficult characters to watch this season, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jen is Dawson Creek's Peyton, right? It's kind of they're
Yes.
that polarizing character and sort of goes against the grain. I think that where she started out, I've forgotten the guy's name. Billy. Wait, it was Billy this season or season?
No, Chris is the guy this season.
Chris. Oh God, I hate that. I hate that guy.
Yes, that guy. Which, by the way, we can just address the weird crossover of Chris. For those who don't know, Chris, the actor who plays him, Jason Bear, is the lead on Roswell, which was either filming or happening at the same time, because he's wearing the necklace from Roswell. If you've seen Roswell, it's only 3 seasons. It's a good show. I like it. I bought this because I am a Roswell fan. I bought this as like a teenager, but it also ends up being a Dawson's Creek prop because
right.
He's wearing it on the show. They never explain. I'm like, why is he wearing an alien symbol on Dawson's Creek? He's an alien on Roswell. He's one of the aliens that like lands in the 40s and then wakes up years later or whatever. Yeah. So it's super weird. His character on Roswell is amazing. So it's hard for me to see him as Chris, because Chris is unbearable. The only redeeming qualities that Chris has, and I wouldn't even really call it that, is that compared to Abby, at times, he's not as cruel.
Oh,
That's
Abby.
it.
Oh,
yes.
Abby.
We will just, I guess we can kind of discuss Abby, because Abby and Jen are the same thing. Like, I mean, you did not see, I know you didn't see that coming, because no one saw Abby dying coming.
Oh my God. Oh, well, that was a whole thing in itself, because
yes,
I got so
that's a big
angry.
part of Jen's arc as well, like death for the first time, or not for the first time, obviously her grandfather died, but it's different when one, like a classmate or something, dies. I don't know if that happened to you in high school or anything like that, but it did with us. And it was like, the same things that happen on this show happened in real life, where they were like, you didn't know her, and you can't say this about her, things. I didn't know the girl that died, but like it was a thing. Like I watched people lose it over everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's super rough. I think it's like, not to say I get what you're saying. I think with like grandparents, it's kind of like you feel, okay, it's not expected, but it's more expected. It's like nature taking its course, like, it's unfortunate, but it happens to us all eventually. But when it's with somebody young, it's like, well, that's not supposed to happen. It's like a shock that comes with it, as well as the grief and trauma and everything. But I think that with the Abby thing, I had got so angry. I think it was actually, I made a reel out of it. It was actually at the point, it's about midway through the season, where she is running for like school president or whatever, and
against
she just
Andy.
and she just starts spouting off about Andy's mum and hereditary mental illnesses and all this stuff. And so I put something like, expel this bitch from the planet, I want her dead, and then put like Robert De Niro in from The Untouchables saying he was going to kill her family and stuff. And then who knows, 7 episodes later, she's dead.
I was watching that going, Simon, it's okay though, it was funny. Yeah, the kids are fucking cruel. The things that are just casually said about Joey in particular, like, and her family situation, I'm like, what? How is this not? And Andy gets it too. I don't know if it's a small town thing or what, but they seem extra cruel. But yeah, Abby, Abby and Jen pairing up like they do in the beginning of the season and everything like that, I thought was really fun to watch, even though it was destructive. And then I think that Abby dying messes with Jen in that sense of like, oh, I could die. Like this, what I'm doing is dangerous. Like, yes, it was an accident how Abby died, but like, and it wasn't Jen's fault or any, she tried to get her, she tried to go in. But at the same time, like, you're both drunk. You're both like, nobody's around to help you. You're it's no one's fault, but you are in a high risk situation, so to speak. So I'm sure that that's in Jen's head at the end of the day, and is kind of a thing that's messing with her.
Yeah, I mean, it affected me, like, not when it happened, it didn't affect me, but like the aftermath of it, in the way that I was thinking when I was that age, I did all kinds of dumb things with my friends, like all kinds of things like that, like and things where it would have only taken a slip or a slight accident, and and it happens, and you
Yeah.
sometimes think how lucky we are that things didn't turn out that way. And then the one other thing I was just going to add is that the pairing of Abby and Jen reminds me of the pairing of Brooke and Rachel, which could feel that there's not only is there a lot that sort of I mean, when we'll talk about the locker thing, but that is ridiculous. Like, I don't know how they got away with that.
Yeah.
Is that because there's some of the writers transferred over?
I have no idea. I do not know. I mean, I would be a writer, or I would be pissed if I was a writer on Dawson's Creek and saw that and saw them doing the same shit like that. I mean, it was even like, it was in red, like it was the same. Yeah, I mean, everything else around it was different. The character wasn't actually gay. Peyton wasn't actually gay. How Peyton handled it was very different from how Jack handled it, but the incident itself was the same. So yeah.
God, that Jack
Yes,
storyline was so powerful. Can I just
yep.
add in? I know that, I'm sorry, I know we're supposed to be on Jen, but can I just add in
It's
that?
okay. We'll skip around. It's a lot.
Well, I thought I remembered a spoiler. Okay, I was gonna
Oh,
wait. I was gonna wait to bring it up on the podcast,
okay.
but I didn't think it was gonna happen. I thought it was gonna happen like later in the show. So the thing with the spoiler is you can't be mad at it. You personally can't be mad at it because it was from you.
Oh, cool. What did I do?
From years ago. So as people know, I the way that we met was because I was a fan and a listener of Rivercourt, and I haven't listened to it since we've been doing Ravens, because I try not to listen to anything One Tree Hill, so
Yeah.
I keep my like own perspective. I don't like just regurgitate what someone else has said. But I remember you saying something with Ryan about one of the characters becoming gay in Dawson's Creek, or not
Yeah.
becoming gay, coming out as gay, and
Right.
it being like a twist. And in my head, I thought I had remembered it as Pacey, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
really? I was like, I don't see that. Like, I don't
Right.
think that. I mean, that would be a huge twist if that
Mm-hmm.
happened. So I was kind of, so I was going to mention it to you on this episode, thinking that it would happen in season 3, 4, 5, whatever. And then and then suddenly when Jack was reading the poem, and I was like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe it was actually going to twist, and it was going to be he read the poem, and then Pacey heard the poem, and then it sort of maybe
Mm-hmm.
triggered some subconscious thing within him. But it didn't go
No,
that way.
Pacey's just an awesome fucking ally.
Oh man, so good.
Pacey is like the best character. You can see why I'm like, oh, he's like one of my favorites of the show because of this
Here's my favorite
season in
now.
particular. Yeah, season 1, he's really fun. Like, he's the fun guy, and then he has the drama with Tomorrow. But this season, it's like Pacey is stepping the fuck up as a person. Like, he is becoming an amazing person. And then they reveal more about his background. They kind of did with Doug, with his brother. Like, they kind of show like his brother's the golden boy and he's the fuck up, and that kind of dynamic. But I really think you're talking about individual episodes we could have discussed. The father-son boat trip episode could have been one that we like individually could have discussed because it was so good. But okay, so Jen ends because it's just kind of because like honestly, this isn't like a peak Jen season, but how do you feel about Jen and Graham's having their split and then it being like Jack comes into the mix as well?
It was a good way.
Jack is by the end of this season, Jack is kind of facing what a lot of young gay, queer, like, any like under the umbrella of LGBTQ kids face, which is they have no one. They lose everything because they come out and it's who they are. So I'm curious as to what you think of that.
I was really happy that it made sense. I didn't see it coming that he was gonna live with Jen and Graham's. I think that Graham's sounds weird in my accent. By the way, I'm hearing it. It sounds better as
I would. Maybe I don't know if it sounds different for the way that I say it versus you, because I'm only hearing it my voice. But the way you say it doesn't sound weird to me.
I think that in the UK we call our like grandmothers, we shorten it to Nan, Nan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'd say I'm going to go see my Nan, and I think that sounds like the equivalent. I'm going to see my Grams. I'm going to go see my Nan.
Grams is not super common though. Just FYI. Okay. No, that's not a common one. It's usually grandma, depending on where you are, Nana. Those are the two that I always grew up with. And then I had, because I have like an Italian family on my mother's side, it was mum. And that's what my nieces and nephews call my mom now. They call her mum, and it mum and papa. But like my grandmother on my father's side is either grandma for me, but everyone else in the family, because they're in Indiana or whatever, like they're in the Midwest, they call her Nana. So like it's different everywhere, I guess.
I see that.
Well, if anyone is from the area, like where they're from, like Boston, like Cape Cod area, is Grams common there? I want to know that. I genuinely let us know, because I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, let's find out. Well, I think they developed her character so much better this season. I think now that and I think this often happens with shows, that we sort of learn the characters and then you can see how they were sort of working the characters out at the beginning of like the first sort of season. And so now that we know her better, it feels like her racism that happened at the beginning of season 1, it feels a bit out of place. It feels like they put it in for sort of shock value, where it doesn't feel like it marries up with the character that we have now. Like, she seems a lot more loving. Like, still we could imagine, being, yes, okay, she's super religious and probably, I don't know what the right term is to say, but a little bit like, you could, okay, it wouldn't be shocking, but it was so outspoken and blatant, in season 1. Like, I could imagine it being a little bit more of like closeted racism. Not saying that that's acceptable in any way, but
more subtle.
Yeah, more subtle. Yeah. And it could have been more of a point of, hey, that she says a comment and then that's a point that gets picked up later, as in, hey, this isn't cool, you got to learn from this, so on and so forth, and it's sort of rounded off. But they didn't do that. They kind of left it. I mean, it did kind of circle in that she then ends up delivering the baby, but it still didn't really get to a point of, oh, I was wrong for saying that, so on and so forth. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it is left that way. I agree. They did. I mean, yeah, she delivers the baby, but whatever. This doesn't absolve her of the bullshit. I
Yeah.
think that the thing that, if we want to say the growth of her character, is that she ends up being, so Ty is a character that
Oh,
Jen
yeah.
dates, who's a fucking douchebag, very
Yes.
religious. She just dates douchebags this season. That's just it, unfortunately. Um, and by the way, I think the Jack and Jen dynamic is particularly, like, makes the most sense to me, because she is not, like, it's not foreign to her. She's from a city, like, she has more culture, she has more outside stuff. So she's just like, oh yeah, okay, he's gay. Like, whatever, you know. But to people like Grams who have grown up in a small town, that might be, and Ty, that's more difficult for them. Now,
Mm.
the things that Ty says have been said to me, basically. Like, so very accurate description of homophobia within the context of, you know, religious people. I thought that Grams, when she steps up to Ty in that moment of saying, like, you can't judge him, you can't say that, that's God's decision, like, how she bites back and is basically like, kind of like, get the fuck out of here. I think that that is not something that season one Grams would have done, and I think that that is Jen's influence, and I think it's from incidents like the birthing episode and everything like that, where she's just wearing the bigotry down. Now, I'm not saying they're two very separate issues that have two very, you know, like I don't want to say, like, oh, it's all, you can just lump it all together. It's totally different, and it intersects in different ways in life. But, you know, I think that that was a good sign of her growth as a person, and being more accepting and being more open and being like, maybe I don't know what's actually going on in the world, because I do live in a small town. There's a lot of things I haven't seen or don't understand.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's a complete turnaround by the end. And the episode where she's going to go out on a date for like the first time since, you know, the grandpa had passed away, and
Yeah.
that they did her hair up and all of that stuff, and then she got stood up because the guy was actually married and was a douchebag. So she was following the trend of that Jen was setting of dating douchebags. But
Yeah. But that
uh,
was so sweet. Like how
ye-
Jen took care of her and was like getting her all fancy and messing with her.
yeah, that was like an endearing episode to their
Yeah.
relationship, but also to Grams, and seeing that she's vulnerable and she's lonely, and actually she craves, you know, being with someone, companionship.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been good development, and I think they needed that blowout of that big argument
Mhm.
and the time apart to come back to reconcile in a way, like the when Jen said at the end, you know, I've got three conditions,
Mhm.
and basically being, you have to accept me for who I am as I accept you
Yeah.
for who you are, you know, paraphrasing. I think
Which,
that's really
what a
important.
thing for a 16-year-old. Jen is so wise. That's the thing that I do really love about her, is that she fucks up a lot, and she's very flawed as a person. She recognizes it. And she has these moments of wisdom that none of the other characters really have. And for as self-aware as they are, for the hyperbole and the way that they speak and everything like that, the characters her age, like Jen is the one who, she will say things and see things. She'll see things that other people around don't see. Like, she sees how in love Joey is with Dawson in the beginning. You know, she just, there's something, like, she's got like that empath. There's something going on there. And that, yeah, that, where she's like, you have to accept me as I am and I'll accept you as you are, is just beautiful to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good character journey, and the fact that she is flawed is more relatable, because
Yeah.
actually there are parts of her storyline that are probably the most relatable to what I was like growing up. Not like,
Yeah.
you know, there's actually so many parts of this season that I could personally relate to, that was actually like, oh, now I'm like, I'm going to spend the whole day remembering things that related to my own experiences in adolescence. I spoke about this. I won't go into it in depth here because I've spoken about it before, but the the Jack situation of him having these rumors going around with him in school
it's
about
the rumors, Felix. No, sorry. I had to bring it up because it's the way she says the rumors. They
so
were
many times.
rumors.
She says rumors so many times. There should be a hoodie, some sort of merch hoodie
Drinking
for
game. Yeah.
for the, but yeah, and it's crazy how mirrored they are in some of that approach, isn't it? Again,
well, we'll talk about we'll talk about Andy and Jack next, because I think that they do crossover with Jen in particular, like the Jack and Jen stuff. So we can just just immediately go into Jack's storyline after we finish discussing this. But go ahead, or start it now with you're saying, Jack, this Jack story.
Well, yeah. Well, basically, when I was in high school, but it's not high school; it's like middle school for us, like sort of a bit younger. A rumor went around school about me being gay, and this was in like 2002, maybe 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
And I couldn't like even walk the halls without being like berated, shouted at, laughed at, like all kinds of things. And regardless whether these things are true or not, like we're teenagers, and teenagers like who like the reality is do people even have defined sexuality at that age? Like, like as in these are times where people were working themselves out, and like,
yeah,
I just remember feeling absolute fear, like fear. I mean, I was lucky that I kind of was like nobody in that school, like as in, I had friends and whatever, but I was nowhere near popular. I was just kind of in the middle, in the background.
same.
So
Yeah,
by the next day, that people, everyone had moved on to the next thing. It's like almost like I wasn't like important enough for it to continue on. But it was horrible. I remember going home crying, all of these things, and this was like a few days before the school ended. So it's so when watching his storyline there, it was difficult because, I mean, it's much harder for him, because it wasn't the end of school. For me, the school ended and I was done with the school anyway. But also he's living a life of, he's making a life choice as well. It's not only like, he's then coming out as gay and being what it seemed like as maybe like the only openly gay person in the school. I mean, that's super difficult.
Yeah, there's no one gay. They clearly hint that Abby is bisexual, or
Oh yeah.
Abby believes herself to be bisexual. Once again, we don't know, given the dynamics of her character. But so okay, so Jack is such an interesting character, because when he comes in, he is merely a wedge,
I hated him.
I know, but let's just, this is okay. So Jack comes in, he's introduced as Andy going to Joey, being like, hey, my brother, like, I have a brother, he needs a job, can you help him out? We also come to believe that they have money, like that Andy and Jack's family have a lot of money, because Pacey insinuates that, and they don't. They actually don't. They're actually broke. And there's all of this trauma within their family that is not being dealt with properly, because their dad just like abandoned them. So even if Tim was still alive, you have a family that's struggling financially. you have the golden boy, which was Tim. You have Andy, who is pretty damn perfect. Like, she's described as not being perfect basically because of the trauma of Tim and her mother. And then you have Jack, and Jack is the youngest. I One thing I wasn't 100% sure about is, are they twins? And were you questioning that in this?
No, but that makes sense now that you've said it, because they're in the
Right.
same school year, right? Or seems
Right. Everything seems to be the same. So I don't like birthday spring of 83 for Jack on the Wikipedia. I was gonna look this up for him, but I forgot to. So he was born spring of 83 and she was born 1983. So yeah, they're twins. Like, it's never explicitly said on the show, but they have a very close bond. They're twins. And so Jack is just like, he's not the golden boy, and he's not the perfect one, perfect sister. He's just kind of the quiet one in the family who goes off on his own. He's really into art. He's really sensitive. He's really just like reserved. You kind of think, oh, he's going after Joey, which I would argue he did kind of go after Joey. I think that initially he was going after her as a friend because he was kind of desperate for someone. I would also argue desperate for healthy female energy, because let's face it, he had his sister who was not well, and he was very type A. Even when Andy is well in this season, I don't think she's well, if that makes sense.
did you say she's very type A?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Sorry.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So I guess that's more like an American term. So there's type A and type B personality is like a phrase. So type A would be, you're very organized, you're very like controlling. If you're going on a trip, for example, you make a full itinerary, you plan everything. Type B would be like, let's go with the flow. Let's not worry about it. It's more of a pacey vibe. Pacey is very type B, and he's very type A.
Got
And
it.
sometimes when people like that get together, they get on each other's nerves, but sometimes they bring out the best in each other, which is what they kind of did, you know? So that's like, he's just kind of like, okay, Andy, she has some like really great moments, and I love her as a character, but she has a lot of unresolved trauma. She has a lot of things she's not dealing with, and it eventually is boiling over. And Jack is running this entire season from both his true identity and from the trauma of his family. And so the way that they present that throughout the season is just beautifully done. And you don't see it coming. Like, you don't see that like Jack's gay until the episode where they have, after the painting or the drawing that Joey did, when Jack whispers to Jen, which I thought was very interesting that he only told Jen about this, but that him and Joey were really like doing something, maybe gonna do something. I don't know how far they would have gone. I don't think Joey would have actually slept with him even if they got to that point, but Jack physically couldn't. And that was really, and he, that was a really interesting where you're like, you don't really think about it. You just think, oh, maybe he wasn't, the moment wasn't right, whatever. And then later when they go back, you're like, oh shit, they were writing this the whole time. Like, they were planning this for Jack. It was there the whole time, right under your nose, where you're like, oh, he's sensitive, he's out of place. They made him have a lot of characteristics that young, especially like there are a lot of young gay men, he shared those qualities, but there are things that, like, because he wasn't super effeminate, like, he could kind of hide it, mask it, and that's why he kind of got mad at his father when he's like, this is the thing. We all know that I'm gay. Like, he's kind of like, fuck you. How did you not know? Which I have definitely had that, where I'm like, this shouldn't come as a surprise to you. Now, granted, when I told most of my family members, they were like, yeah, that's not a surprise to us. But it's still, one of those things where you're like, I am, it's so emotional. Jack's story is so, like, I get so deeply invested in it. I love Jack, but I was definitely feeling what you were feeling watching it, rewatching it, trying to look at it from your perspective. We don't know what Jack is going. So like he's just a villain in the beginning, basically.
Well, and it's kind of like you're the what I thought was a spoiler kind of like threw me off even further. It was like I
That's
thought
nice. Yeah.
right. But so for context, for anyone who didn't see like my stories and whatever, I was getting frustrated with Jack's character at the beginning because I thought that he was just like a hindrance to Dawson and Joey getting together. And he was sort of getting in the way. And they have that episode where they go to, it's not like the prom, it's like, what is it? Like a
It's just
mid
a dance.
right.
I don't remember exactly what kind of dance it was, but yeah.
And Dawson punches him, right?
Yeah.
And I was so excited
Which,
about all of that.
I mean, I would not say that punch was not justified. I don't think it's the way you should handle things, but
No.
I understood why he did it.
Yeah, it's good for TV. Like it's like when
Yeah.
it's like when he threw the basketball in Pacey's face in season 1. You know, it's like you
Yeah.
don't do these things, but it's great TV. But
he's got some violent tendencies. Like he'll throw shit and he gets mad. I'm like, yeah, okay. You
what
some aggression.
well, it was so and like the boat trip as well, for example. Like I guess we'll talk more about that when we talk about Pacey, but like he's just kind of in the way. He kind of reminded me of I don't want to relate him to Felix, but kind of in a way that he was in the way with Brooke when it's like
in
Brooke
the beginning
and Lucas.
you think he's a Felix, but he's actually the Anna of the situation.
Yeah.
Like, like that's they kind of, it's kind of a bait and switch there. But yeah, when you go back and rewatch it now, you'll just watch the way Kerr Smith like moves in the beginning of the seasons. He's small. He's very small. Like, and they have his hair a particular way, and they make a point to when he gels up his hair. They're like, "Oh shit, you're like GQ now." He starts wearing better clothes and everything. It's not that he's trying to change; it's that he is becoming his true self. He was making himself smaller because he couldn't deal with who he was, and he was hiding who he was.
But that's great, and this is like I really want to rewatch it to sort of see all of this stuff and to have the comfort of being like, it's okay, Jack, I don't hate you really. You're just going you're going through some like identity finding yourself, you know, moments. I get it. Let's get to the good stuff, because by the end it'd be hard not to say that him and Pacey are my favorites by far. Like they're probably and them together is a great combination, like particularly at the end with, you know, how they're supporting Andy. But to go back to the actor, because I can't look this stuff up for spoilers. So is he big? Is he in other stuff?
Like, oh, I thought you were gonna ask if he was gay.
Oh,
Kerr Smith. He did. I believe he was in like another TV show in the past couple of years. He is straight and married, or was married. So that was like, and he's always been like a really great ally and like a really, like, there should be no shame behind this, and you know, a really cool guy. He was in Final Destination.
Okay.
That movie, so of like early 2000s, you would know. Riverdale. He was recently on Riverdale. That's what I was thinking of. I guess
that's like a theme with Riverdale. I mean, I haven't seen it, but it's like they bring back like Chad Michael Murray was in it, and
he was in Life Unexpected, which means that he is technically in the One Tree Hill universe. What?
There we go. Hey, just while we're on this topic, so I've brought this up on I think a couple of podcast episodes before, but interested in your opinion. So I don't use the word straight, and I think that it's a word that in time will be not used anymore. And the reason that I say this is because I think by saying that someone is straight implies that that is like the correct way, so to speak, and that is right. We're actually, like that's not true. There is no right, wrong way. Everyone's sexuality is their own thing. So I mean, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I do use the term because it is important within context, usually. Like, um, you know, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and it is very common for people to be like, it doesn't matter, like, everyone's like, as long as you're happy, it's cool and this and that. But like, the fact of the matter is that people do face, the vandalism. It's raining super loud, so if you hear that, that's what that is. We're getting ready to get a hurricane, or tropical storm, whatever. So you hear like thunder or anything, that's what it is. um I don't say it in like a derogatory way or anything, but like if someone's straight or distinguishing that. But I do think that there is, so me pointing out that Kurt Smith is a heterosexual man is, I think, important because he was portraying an iconic gay character. And there's another dynamic when it's a gay actor playing a gay character like that. And it's a big deal that like, this is one of the first gay male characters who comes out, who's in television like this, visibly gay. And it was portrayed by a straight actor, so like it gives some context. I think in the future, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think labels are going to be as much of a thing or whatever, but we still have pride because people still have like that stuff spray painted on the locker. We
Oh
still
yeah.
have these things. We still have labels because it's kind of the situation that we're in as a society.
I just
So,
mean that word specifically, like as in I think it's like, I'm not saying about saying
so you'd say
someone's
like
heterosexual.
heterosexual.
I would just say I just say heterosexual rather than saying
Mhm.
straight, because I just think straight implies that straight and like bent, right, is kind of what
Right, right,
the
right, right.
vernaculars are. And I think that, well, if something's bent and misshapen, it means it's like it's broken or wrong, or has got those
I
implications to
think
it.
that I just say straight because I'm used to joking and being like, the straights are at it again or something. Like, I think I'm probably used to it being like a joke or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
No, I
think
think
I think
everyone says it, like as in
yeah.
it's the accepted terminology, but I'm saying
Hmm.
I think I feel like eventually they won't use that. They'll just say heterosexual or whatever, or if there's some other phrasing that's a bit more like, doesn't have any connotations to it. But I mean, it's a really interesting debate, and one that I'm probably not, mentally intelligently armed for. But someone that I am like low key obsessed with is Wentworth Miller, who plays
Oh
Michael
yeah, yeah,
Schofield in Prison Break.
yeah.
And so his Instagram is amazing, by the way, for like just everyone just go and follow him. It was during when my wife was giving birth to our son. It was a very long process, and
Yeah.
during COVID and everything, there was a lot of times where I wasn't allowed in the hospital. I had to just wait in the car, in the car park and whatever. And it was at a time where he was doing really long captions and talking about his experience of being a gay man that was having to, he didn't come out as gay until much later in his career. And I
Yeah.
think he had fear of not being able to get, booked for roles, and fear of, fear just in general. And but now it's the complete opposite, and he is really using his platform to help, be an ally, support the community, etc. But it's really interesting. He came out and said he will not play any heterosexual characters going forward. He will only play homosexual characters from now on, because he feels that there's not enough representation. And there's this whole thing of gay for pay, of heterosexual actors playing gay characters, but like maybe there's not being that sort of authenticity to it. Well, what do you, like I said, I don't feel like I'm equipped enough to have to, I don't know, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't think that's a good idea because I think that that could reinforce the idea that only gay actors should play gay roles. And then are they going to not cast gay actors in straight roles because they're worried about backlash? Could that reinforce a negative thing rather than a positive thing? Could that have more negative repercussions than positive ones? That being said, I also am just like, you're actors. You should be able to play, like, I don't know. I'm sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if I have an opinion on this. Like I other than I'm not gonna like I think it's, you know, it's fucked up if you're like Wentworth Miller can't play, it's like a Barney Stinson type character that's like from How I Met Your Mother, that's like the womanizer, Joey from Friends, whatever.
Right.
Like if you want to say that a gay man can, and which Barney was played by a gay man, so like you want to say that like a gay man can't play that role, that's stupid. Look, he did. Like that happened. It's funny that I picked Barney off the top of my head, which is like which is actually played by a gay actor. But yeah, like if you want to say like they can't play Joey from Friends because he's gay, and I'd be like, no, fuck you. So like, I don't know.
I guess I mean it's super complicated, but I guess with his example was that, did you watch Prison Break?
No, I saw some episodes of it, but I didn't watch it all the way through. It's not really my type of show.
Okay, yeah, but I get that. It's kind of, but his character, I guess it was like that character would never have been portrayed as being gay because it was kind of like had to be kind of like a bit of the macho like show,
Right.
you know, for
Right.
and but in reality that could have been powerful, you know, if
Yeah.
to, you know, and had impact and whatever. But yeah, I mean, really interesting and super
I
brave of Dawson's Creek to do
yeah.
it, and early, you know, we're talking in the late 90s. I thought it was great. It was my favorite, I guess it was like my favorite storyline of season 2, but most difficult to watch, most emotional. It made me cry. You know, I have no shame in that. I cried several times in this season. I cry all the time. It's just what I do.
So um so Greg Berlanti comes on as a writer in this season. And Kevin Williamson is also gay, by the way. Like he is bringing his own stories to his creation. He leaves after this season, and there's kind of stories as to whether he was like kicked out by the studio, like they were fighting. I don't know if anyone knows exactly what happened. If more of that has come out over the years, you guys can send me articles about it and I'll read into it. But Greg Berlanti comes on. Now, do you know who Greg Berlanti is?
No.
Okay. The Flash, Arrow, like the Everwood, like all of these really big shows, he created them. Like
Okay.
he's the guy. So he's gay. He becomes a writer in Dawson's Creek, and then season 3 he takes over and runs Dawson's Creek. So like he starts as a writer on this one, and then he ends up running the show in season 3.
Is Kevin Williamson still on as a writer then, or something?
No,
he's just gone from the show.
He's a creator, but he is done with the show after this season.
Do we know why?
Yeah, I want to look again because and you can cut some of this out.
Has he continued to do other work like within
yeah, he did all the Scream sequels and and you know all of that. He left the show to focus on other endeavors. I guess he did a show on ABC called Wasteland, which no one watched. It was canceled at the first season. He does return at some point to Dawson's Creek. I will say that. It's not like he hates the show or anything along those lines, but he's not running the show. And he created Vampire Diaries. You know what that show is?
Oh, wow. Yeah, my wife loves Vampire Diaries.
Right.
So he called it Grampire.
Graham's Fire Diaries. Yeah. I want to see that. Graham says, yeah. Oh no, I'm glad I didn't read that out loud. Okay. I remember hearing that maybe he was kind of fighting with the studio or something along those lines when he left. And then I will say, when they're going into season 3, because he's gone, there's a lot of turmoil. What are we doing? What is this show gonna be now? And they see a ratings drop, like going into season 3. So there's some interesting dynamics. But season 2 was still massive. Like, it was a massive hit. It was so good. But yeah, like I think Greg Berlanti and Kevin Williamson, they and like these writers, they bring this coming out story to the show. Like, and they put it on screen. Having Jack have his locker vandalized, having him be the love interest. Like, Anna is Jack, right? Like, she comes in, she's just the sibling of this other character who seems like they're going to be a bigger deal. She is love interest of Lucas, kind of driving a wedge between him and Brooke, or him and Peyton, depending on who you were rooting for at the time.
Right.
She just kind of finds her way into the group, but she's always a little bit of an outcast. She's always a little bit out of place. She's kind of like, has her own stuff going on. I will say that there's a huge difference between the relationship that Jack and Andy have versus Felix and Anna. You can tell Felix and Anna really don't get along well. Like, they're siblings, and like Felix always looks out for her, but they don't get along in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas Jack really looks after Andy and wants to care for her in that way, but he's kind of in his own head. He's kind of off in his own space. She has the like full responsibility of the family. So it's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, like, even having the vandalism, like, down to that, it's wild. Like, that this storyline is like the same. I was also interested, you said that there was a fire. You predicted that there was a fire, and I'm like, guess what other show has a fire? Like, what you guys are getting ready to get to on Ravens,
Yep. And that was crazy. I mean, that I threw that out as just like a craziness.
It was
thing.
a joke. Yeah, pretty much. You're like, oh, let me predict something will happen.
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. I think with the locker vandalism, what was sadder I mean, it's sad in both shows, but what was sadder in this one was Joey desperately trying to, like, quote unquote, help him with, like, kiss me now, like, in front of all these people, to like save face or whatever. And there's some like such realism to that desperation and fear that
she really cares for Jack. And she's like, oh, I've invested in this guy, and I'm not with Dawson, who is my quote unquote soulmate, or whatever pedestal they put each other on at the moment. And she's like, she's gotten so invested in this guy, and she really cares for him deeply. So for her to be like, oh, is he? No, he can't be. I'll fix it. Like, kind of.
I read it as that she was doing it for his sake, like, as in just to help him. I think it's a little publicly. Bit of both. You think it's also because she struggled with, the guy that I'm with, that has now come out as gay, which I think kind of like hurts her like pride or ego, right?
That's psychologically will fuck you up. Yeah, for sure. I think personally, the same thing can happen when if you're with someone who later is like, yeah, I'm we use the word again, but I'm straight, and it's like, oh, so did I turn you off from women? Or like I mean, these are so, like, that can kind of get in your head too, of like, do I, Joey might be like, did I do this? No, it has nothing, unfortunately, it has nothing to do with you. And Jack even emphasizes that. And I think she believes him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
like
think,
it's an individual journey, right? And well, what
but you're also 16 and taking everything personally, you know?
yeah, yeah. I thought it was interesting that when he was like making out with Abby and she was
Mm-hmm.
saying like, well, is sexuality even defined? Like, as in, I
Mm-hmm.
think was she saying at that age or just in general? I'm not sure.
No, no, no. I think she was saying everyone is bisexual.
Right, right,
Everyone
right.
likes everyone else. Which, by the way, for Abby's perspective, if she's truly bisexual, that could just be the way that she views the world, and she thinks everyone else feels that way too. And then in her brain, being a little more progressive, she might be like, "Hey, you guys just aren't admitting it. At least I'm being honest."
Right.
Like, which is kind of cool, for especially for someone her age.
Right. And he's almost like kind of just I think he's into the fact that she is judgment free. She's kind of like,
That, and I think that there's an idea of, if I'm bisexual, let's say he's like, if I'm bisexual, sexuality is a spectrum, then I don't have to do the scary thing, continue to do the scary thing, which is eventually try to date men. What's going to happen if I kiss a guy in front of my dad? What's going to happen? Like what, I have to be hyper aware if I'm with like a girlfriend or whatever in public, because you're like, what's going to happen? Like, are you in danger? So there are so many layers to coming out of the closet, to accepting your life, and then just living your life after. You think that I'm sure Jack was thinking at the time, like, you come out and like you're out. Oh my God, the secret's out. Like you don't have to carry this burden anymore. But then you carry other weird little things throughout your life, like, and that's why there's a lot of like depression and anxiety and things like that within our community, and unfortunately suicide and things along those lines, because and it really varies depending on where you live. I do live in a city, more metropolis area. It's not a huge city, but I do live in a city, which is a little bit safer. um, but I dated people that are from small towns where it's like, you do not talk about it. You do not, like, it's okay that you are whatever, but like, don't see it, don't talk about it, don't do that. That's psychologically kind of what Jack is dealing with, where it's like, okay, I'm out, but hey, am I out? Like, I'm kind of an in between. And if I'm bisexual, if, let's say, I like Abby, maybe Joey just didn't work, maybe I just need to be with Abby, I don't have to face all of that other stuff.
mm,
I can be with her, and that'll make me, whatever. And unfortunately, what he finds is that's not the case. Like, he is gay, and for him, it's not as fluid. It's pretty, like, in the same way you're saying, like, oh, I'm a heterosexual male, like, I'm a lesbian. Jack is just, he just knows. I've had those situations where a guy has hit on me or whatever, and I've been like, maybe, and then I'm like, it's not happening for me. Like, you just, it's the same as if you were single and the guy was hitting on you, you'd be like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't work for me. Like, it just doesn't, like, you know that's just how it ends up going. And unfortunately, Jack experimenting in that way, in that circumstance, was very hurtful to Joey, and
yeah.
hilarious to drunk Dawson. But
Oh God,
and
that moment, crazy. Yeah, I mean,
Andy being drunk as hell too.
oh, that episode is crazy. It's kind of like it's just so much pressure as well for like adolescents, young people to have on themselves, and then in like high school to have this like arena of an audience that
Yeah, I was
are
not out in high school. Like, I was deeply closeted in high school. I could not admit it to myself. And then it took me years before I told my family. I told friends early 20s, and then it wasn't until 20, just 2 years ago, that my family knew. So Yeah.
It's yeah, it's I mean, I can't even imagine how difficult that must all be, and continues to be. I mean, it's really sad hearing you say about how, you have to be careful for just safety, to
Yeah.
be yourself, and to live your life publicly in public. Like it's horrific and shows how much further society needs to go to, for everyone to be able to live free, and safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a weird dynamic of like, are we okay? Are we not okay? Like, it's just it's a thing that sits in the back of your mind. And you know, and carrying the burden of a secret from people for so many years. I know for me it was very difficult, and I think maybe I projected a little bit on Jack as well. But like, I don't like keeping secrets. I don't like like, I'm very honest. Like honesty, loyalty, like all of those things are very high values to me. So like, lying about that thing is very damaging. Like it just is. Like it's so I see that with Jack when I watch it. So when I see like, oh, he's trying to like make out with Abby, he's trying to do this and that, it's because he's just like, he just has damage from the lie, I think. And I believe it improves as the season improves, and he's more accepted, and he's loving himself more, and he's growing in friendship, not romantic, by the way, which I loved. I love that he didn't just, you know, get a partner and then that's when he came out, because that's how a lot of stories are written. Jack is doing this
Right.
on his own. He's doing it alone.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. I mean, he's not he has his friends, but like he's not doing it with the like safety of a romantic partner, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and it's not like all of a sudden now he's like super camp, or changes like,
Mm-hmm.
all of his clothing and whatever. Like, yeah, okay, like he had a different hairstyle at one point or something, and then people were almost making those jokes, or not
Mm-hmm.
jokes, but it was like a joke
They were like
within.
GQ or something. Like yeah.
Yeah, when it's like, no, he just changed his hair. Like, as in, it's I think it was handled really well. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like surprised, not with the show, but with the time. Like, it's like
Yes.
I've learned to trust the show. I trust that Dawson's Creek to handle this stuff really well, but I don't trust like the '90s with stuff like this. Like
No,
I
I
love the
agree.
'90s. It's like we have a whole podcast about movies from the '90s because I love it, but I don't. It's not a safe place, for a lot of these topics. Where it's safer now, in today's era for handling things like this, or it's a lot better. But yeah, no, it's really good. I'm really interested to see where it's going to go next. I do have a prediction that
Ooh,
I
yes.
want to throw out. Okay, so this pertains more to Andy, but
Which we're gonna move into Andy next anyway, and then get to our other three main characters since we covered Jen. Yeah.
well, okay, so it ends with Andy's going to heal herself, to take time to,
Mm-hmm.
and Pacey is like heartbroken, or they're both heartbroken,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I feel like she's gonna be gone for like at least half the season of season
Mm-hmm.
3, something like that, maybe even 2/3. Pacey, whatever, it's going to be difficult. He's going to go off the rails a little bit because she was kind of keeping him in line and
Yeah.
aligning him, to being the sort of person that he wants to be lately, having to grow. But he will start falling for somebody else,
Mm.
and
Jack.
then
No, just kidding.
uh, for some reason, I think it was one of my earliest predictions, but I think there's opportunity in here somewhere for Pacey and Joey to get together, for it
Mm-hmm.
to be, because we can't. I think Dawson and Joey are going to always be endgame, But I feel like they did it, and we'll talk about them, but I feel like they did it with the end of this season. It was like, we know we have to separate them because it's too early. We need more seasons and more things. So I think that could be something that fills some time of like them not being together. And so maybe it's Pacey is starting to fall for Joey and they start getting together, and maybe they're like first kiss or something. Andy comes back at the end of the episode and sees them. And then just one other quick thing, just while it's in my head, is that what I like about Dawson's Creek that I think is really respectable from a writing standpoint is that they often don't end on cliffhangers. Like with like One Tree Hill and most shows, there is, and cheap might be the wrong word. And again, remember, I love One Tree Hill. I dedicate like 3 hours a week to it. But they often do it on cliffhangers, and maybe it's a bit like in a so come back, like as in make sure you come back to watch the next episode. With Dawson's Creek, almost most episodes, like 9 times out of 10, they're almost wrapped up. Like as in you don't have to come back. Like as in they've kind of wrapped that. I mean, they've got the broader strokes of the story.
It's a different, I will say that's how television has evolved. Older television for sure was more of that way. The like cliffhanger, or I'm sorry, was more of like wrapping it up week to week. That's what you did. That was the standard. Twin Peaks is the show, which was like what, 91, something like that, that changed the industry in that sense of like having cliffhangers. You have to tune in every week for it to make sense. You have to be that invested in it. And Dawson's Creek is kind of in between. Like I would argue it's in between the like everything's wrapped up and we reset of a sitcom, and the One Tree Hill, like, oh my God, Nathan's in an accident. It's just, that was the last episode we watched because we recorded it. So yeah, I'm with you. It does kind of wrap up in a really nice way. Like you want to keep watching it, but you can leave it alone for a couple days too when you feel okay doing that. So let's talk about Andy then, since we're on that discussion anyway. Do you like Andy? What do you think of Andy?
I really liked her at the beginning, and I liked her dynamic with Pacey, how they kind of had that type A, type B. Now I understand that reference, that kind of relationship. And I liked how they kind of had that banter between them, of that they both sort of get on each other's nerves, and but it's not, they don't really, that.
Yeah. And it's Pacey's first real relationship. He had a pure, like he even talks about, Andy struggles with that. It's like, oh, you had sex with this woman, like, that's insane.
Oh my God, I can't believe she came back.
Yeah, tomorrow comes back, and they kind of make out for a second, and then she's like, oh, I gotta go, this is bad for me. I'm like, well, shit, okay. Like, okay.
That was so fun. So, that was a cliffhanger when she was watching them.
That was, yeah. And I liked that they did that because it did feel like the story wasn't quite over for that. It did feel like it needed that little epilogue, that little like touch. So Andy's insecurity, like, over Pacey's dynamic is understandable, like, but she's talking in terms of sexuality, whereas Pacey, he falls in love for the first time in this season. Like, I think he thought he was in love with Tamara, but it wasn't really love. And this season, lustful, he sees love and dedication for the first time. And he is, the way, the things that he does, I think that he would have stood up for Jack either way. For example, in that moment of taking the poem and spitting in the face of this teacher who is a fucking asshole and a bully, and he doesn't like bullies. That's what I love about Pacey. He does not like bullies. I used to get in trouble for like getting into fights with bullies and stuff like that. I did not like that when I was a kid. So I definitely relate to Pacey in that sense. But he that like the way that he steps up for everyone is so special. Like, it's such a special kind of person that he will always be there for you. He's going to go to bat for you. And the way that he does that, particularly for Andy, because he loves her so much, is like a really beautiful thing for him. And at the end of the season, one of my favorite scenes of this whole season is when he's breaking down and crying with his father, and then his dad is like, she wanted me to give you something, and then hugs him, and I'm like, oh my god, like, oh my god. And is that like the first time, at least as in at least a decade plus, that Pacey has hugged his father?
Yeah, Joshua Jackson's acting is off the charts. Like, as in, I think he is the best performer in this. Jack, what was the actor? Sorry, that plays Jack?
Kerr Smith.
Kerr Smith.
Kerr Smith. Yeah.
Right. Kerr Smith. He was phenomenal. Especially with those storylines and the way that he developed, he was great as well. So I'd say those two, and the actress that plays Andy is really good as well. Everybody is great. I would say that Andy started to get on my nerves towards the end of the season, but before it got really bad, before like she was seeing her brother and everything, like, that's different. She didn't annoy me then. It was like, hey, you're going through stuff. But before that, there was a period of about 3 or 4 episodes where it's
Meredith Monroe. I could not remember her name, Andy, even though she's a huge character and a huge cast member. I could not remember her name. Her name's Meredith Monroe, who played Andy on the show.
Yeah. There's like that 3 or 4 episodes there where she got annoying, and then it was like, okay, when then she dyed her hair. I think that
she was starting to slip much earlier than we realized, and I think once again, when you rewatch it, you'll see it more. But it's the death of Abby that really just, another young person in her life dying just sets her off completely.
When she sees Abby in the mirror, it actually kind of scared me a little bit.
Dawson's Creek, and I think I've told you this before, but like, this show low key scares the shit out of you when they do some like Halloween style episodes or whatever. They did in the first season with the Friday the 13th episode, and like they do a good job. I mean, it's Kevin Williamson, creator of Scream, but I agree that was scary. That was like, oh shit, did The Sixth Sense just come out and you guys are like bringing this dynamic in here?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Oh my god! Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry to go all the way back. We forgot about Jen's speech. What's it called?
Yeah.
Is it
eulogy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was intense.
Well, that's what got her kicked out, right? Basically.
Right. Yeah. That was the final straw for Grams, which a little bit low key fuck Grams for that, because it's a 16-year-old girl mourning the death of a friend. Like, she's not going to be logical at all.
Yeah, but I mean, it was pretty out there, like, to say that in front of everyone, and crazy.
I can share a personal story. Yay.
Okay, let's get it.
When I was around the age of maybe like 14, so maybe a few years younger, and they're like 16 now. When I was roughly that age, I used to get in a lot of fights with my grandmother, who is very religious, who also helped my father raise me at times. So there's a lot of that dynamic. The fighting that Grams and Jen have at times is very familiar to me. I specifically remember having a conversation with my grandmother where I told her I did not believe in God, because at the time I did not. I had no reason to. Now I'm kind of personally spiritual. I don't really go to church, but like, I have my own thing. And I remember my grandmother being like, well, I feel sorry for you, or something along those lines. And it was like, wow, like, it was a thing. So it was dramatic as hell. So when I watch Grams and Jen going at each other in this way, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally relate to that. Like I totally understand. If I was like living with my grandmother at the time, would she have kicked me out? I don't know. Like if I crossed the line enough times, I don't know. We eventually would have made up in the same way that Jen and Grams do, but like, who knows?
Yeah, it's always difficult when religion, politics, all of those things, when they cross paths and intersect, and if they're opposing as well. It's like with family specifically, it's really difficult because if it's with friends, you choose your friends. I mean, not to say that you can't have friends with opposing opinions, because you can, as long as they're not oppressive to a point of, against you as a person, your character, or people that you care about, or people in general. There's lines, right? But I mean, you can have hang on, I'm going to make it American. You can have Republican and Democrats can be friends, right? I got it right. Yes.
Got it. Thumbs up.
They can be friends,
and it would be, for you, it would be Tories and conservatives.
No, or close. Tories are conservatives.
Tories are conservatives. What's the
conservative and Labour?
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing. Labour is the Democrats, basically. Tories are like the Republicans. But it's like you can have people, you can be friends. It's like, but it's when it gets to the extreme levels where it's like hatred is involved, and oppressing people. So it's like, but it's much more difficult and complicated when it's your family members, because you don't choose them and you don't want to lose them. And it's really and
that
tough.
Rhymed, and that was very special.
I didn't even mean to.
It was just magic. That's what happened, my friend. That was podcasting magic.
I don't even know what I said. You don't want to lose them because it's, what did I? Because it's confusing. Did I say that? You don't want to lose them.
Choose and lose, wasn't that?
Oh, choose them.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose them.
Yeah. You didn't choose them. You don't want to lose them. Yeah.
Someone put it on a t-shirt now.
So, okay.
Should we have a Capeside Chats hoodie? I feel like we should. Shouldn't we?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to turn down a hoodie for Capeside Chats, or at least a sticker or something. Damn.
Yeah. Wait, speaking of hoodies, promo, Lex and Matt's Excellent Adventure. I have your hoodie right here.
My other podcast. Yeah, but we could get that. We could get that, like, the question is, what color would it be? Would it have to be the traditional black with just the like Capeside Chats in the like Dawson's Creek font, like our logo is, or is it something?
Yeah, maybe it's just that, just the like white, in the Dawson's Creek font.
I low-key love that blue of the Ice House.
So do I. That t-shirt, right. So I bought that Ice House t-shirt.
Do I need one?
If you need one, if people were down for it, I'll put the link below. It was from an Etsy store. It's nothing to do. I need the link. Yeah. It's really good quality. Like, I put it on, I was like, this fits good. It fit the
How'd it wash?
I think it washed well. Speaking of my washing machine, Lex, we sold it. We're just buying a normal one.
Good. It's not worth it. Whatever was going on with that was not worth it. You can go to Simon's Instagram, I'm sure, to see the saga of the washing machine. I don't know what was going on with your washing machine, but yeah.
Me neither, but it's
gone. If you want to get another American washing machine, I can tell you what model like I use, like, to recommend to you, but I'm sure that the British whatever ones you get will be fine.
We've got an LG one, and I bought it from Costco, of course.
Mine's LG as well. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Is it front loading?
For the washer, you mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like the top one.
Oh, it's still the top loading. Damn it. So, this is like extra big though. It's like sort of American-y still, but we still have the dryer. The dryer is American, so
You didn't have problems with the dryer, just the washer.
No, the dryer is delicious. Did you ever think anyone could describe a dryer this way? I can. I just
Your fascination with American culture will never cease to amaze me. It's very funny. Okay, so Andy, we were talking about Andy.
yeah, she got annoying and then she got good. And then
Yes.
she left.
She's a complicated character, I think, in that sense. They don't always try to make her likable, which I enjoy, especially for a female character. I love that she constantly believes the best in people. Like that she is always like she tells Pacey, she's quoting Shakespeare, but she's like, heroes are made, not born. She's instilling this idea of like, you can always turn it around. You can always change your life. You can always do that. You can always be better. You can always have fun. She encourages them to go to the dance. She's like, this will be fun. Let's do it. Like I can see why Pacey falls in love with her, because there is something about her. And I think some of it is her personality disorder or whatever she has going on. It was one of the first shows I ever saw where a teen character was like taking medicine for psychological things. So like I have depression and I have generalized anxiety disorder. So like I had to take medicine as a teenager as well. I don't remember ever seeing that. Now I never had what Andy has. Like she's dealing with something on another level. But I appreciated seeing that talked about. Even if I don't always, I'm like, oh God, it is a very dramatic way. Like, and when when Pacey finds her Xanax or whatever, it's like, oh, that's like a really intense thing. It's like, yeah, but like, we've normalized it as a culture. It is a very like 98, 99, whatever this was versus now. Like you wouldn't think twice if you saw someone, on meds now, I think.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the episode when she's talking to her brother, to begin with, I didn't post it when I was like watching on my Instagram. She was like making eyes at someone in the hallway, and I was
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
what?
Which was
What?
Tim. Yeah.
Yeah, which was
Or
her
Brown.
brother. Which
Yeah.
I was about to be like to go off and be like, how could you? Blah blah. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I was like, actually, not because I knew it was her brother, but because it's like, well, they're young, and yeah, she's in a relationship. It's like, okay, she hasn't done anything. There's been no action yet. It's not like she's like gone over and like kissed this guy or something. There's like,
they did a good job though. You were like, has she been like sleeping around on Pacey this whole time? Like it makes you question it for a second
yeah,
there.
it had me, but I was like, thoughts and actions are two different things, and it's like that it hasn't crossed over to a line of like a physical thing or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna leave it, and then but if it becomes a physical thing, then she'll be next on my death list, after Abby.
Right.
But it didn't, and then I sort of guessed it just a little bit before it was revealed. Not much, not enough to be like smug about it. But I thought it was really good. I thought that the way it was portrayed was really good. And then I just felt sadness for her.
Yeah.
And especially like the way that they tied in with her mum in the show, when her mum is in the store and she's like confused. What in the absolute fuck? The like people that are just like around laughing and like pointing at this poor woman, like what the hell are they doing? Like why are they not help? Like do these people exist? Are there actual people that are this heartless?
I mean, I think so. I mean, people like think about how people mock homeless people, houseless people every day, like they just kind of pass them by and maybe make a joke about them and then whatever. Like, and a lot of, I mean, I'm not saying I do it, but like people do that shit. I think that for some people, if they were in the store and they saw this incident happening with Andy's mom, I don't, Andrea, like she's named after her mom. So like Andrea. And they kind of saw it and then they were like, oh, That's bad. And then they left, like, because they couldn't deal with it. I understand that. Like, I understand the, like, I don't want to see this pain because life is hard enough. Some people are just assholes. And then I think there are the rare people like Abby who are in, for example, who are in so much pain that they cause trouble. Like, they just do terrible things. And I think that's what that example was. And I also think, remember, we're talking about small town. They keep coming back to this small town dealing with racism, small town dealing with homophobia, small town dealing with mental illness. Like, these people are not used to anything that is not like cookie cutter, white, suburban, or small country, whatever. That's what they know. That's it. And anything that is outside of that, they don't understand. Unfortunately, if they're not being raised properly, if they're not being taught to be better people and to approach situations like that with empathy and kindness and understanding whenever they can offer it, they're going to be shitty. Like, those are tools. Like, those are tools that you and I got from, like, our parents or from TV shows that taught us to be better people, books, any part. Like, it's not just, if you had bad parents, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like, there are plenty of people who have terrible parents, but they have something influencing them to be better. Maybe they read comic books of Superman and, like, they're like, that's who I want to be like. But if you don't have that, if you don't have something giving you a positive influence, and Pacey is a good example of that. He doesn't really, like, his positive influence in his life is Dawson. That's his only positive influence. I did want to discuss, I think that they do a good job portraying toxic masculinity with Pacey's brother and dad, with Doug and then Sheriff Wooder or whatever. And that's like what Pacey is surrounded by, and that's why he, like, breaks down several times and everything like that. And he's always viewed as a screw up. So yeah, like, I it's terrible to see them reacting that way to Andrea, like, losing it. But I'm not surprised, because it's a less sensitive time, for better or worse. And you were talking about, I don't expect the 90s to handle it well. Like, yeah, I don't expect people to be decent in the 90s. Dealing with something like that.
True. But I mean, the Pacey in that moment of, like, looking after her and sort of, supporting, that was one of the first moments. I mean, I always liked him. I always had liked him. I was a fan, but it was the first moment where I was like, okay, I prefer you to Dawson now. Like, as in, this is more identifiable. I think this is more the way. Like, in our last episode in the first season, I thought, I can really identify with Dawson. I can see all of this. And as it's gone on, it's like, okay, I could see I was like this for a time, but this feels more in line with. I actually feel like if I was to be a character or had to mesh, it would be like a mesh of Pacey and Jack, I think, with a little bit of Abby. No, I'm joking.
The touch of chaos that Abby brings to your life. I think, that's an interesting question. I think that I would probably have a touch of Dawson, like, more so in the past, but it would, I would probably say Jack and Joey would be my mix. I do have a little bit of the, like, goofy Pacey, like, thing going on too, but I don't know. That's an interesting assessment of, like, how do you, and then it's like, how do you view yourself versus how do other people view you? But, like, that's definitely an interesting dynamic.
The dad, basically, Capeside has a bunch of garbage parents, is something that's in
much
there.
Like One Tree Hill. The parents are either absent, complete shitheads, or just the best parents you can possibly imagine. For the most part, like, Karen's a great parent. I think
Gail's good.
I think Gail and Mitch, despite their issues with each other, and they make mistakes, I do think they're good parents at the end of the day. I think that they are some of the most human parents I've seen portrayed in TV show. They fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
They really do. And I think Dawson gets messed up. Well, I was talking about my favorite images of the season, like my favorite iconic moments. There's something about the full moon episode when he's sitting on the roof with Joey and he's crying. And then like, because he just saw his father break down earlier. That got me so much. Like, oh my God, it's there's just something about the way that James Vanderbeek played that scene where she's like, she sees he's breaking, but she's waiting for him to like fully come to her. And it broke my heart.
Yeah, he's a really great actor as well. And the just thinking of them being on the roof, like the aesthetic of the show is like its own character in its own right. Like I love it. And it feels so different to Tree Hill. It's crazy, like because it's more sort of, creek like, but also even the beach and everything. And like I like rustic. How rustic. And I like how it's lit, which sounds kind of odd, but it's not all like flashy.
Not to me. I'm a total fucking nerd about lighting on TV shows and stuff, so I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Like and it feels, the way it's lit feels even more nostalgic of the time. Like I think you had said at one point, it might have been on the last episode or when we were just talking off microphone, but how some people, if they've seen One Tree Hill first, they find it hard to watch Dawson's Creek because it's like it's older, right? So it's like, well, this is newer and shinier and whatever. But actually, to me, Dawson's Creek feels nostalgic, even though I hadn't watched it then. But I remember the 90s is my childhood, right? So it's like I remember these times, so it makes me nostalgic for that. And it feels like this is like a hidden gem that I just didn't experience at the time, And I also wonder if I was to have watched this in real time, I mean, I would have been like 10. When did it start? 97?
97, yeah.
Right, so I'd have been 10, so it would have way over my head.
Way too young, yeah.
But I also think that this is probably
I started watching at 11, so
yeah.
I watched this whole show through at 11. That was my first show. It's okay. I had a terrible childhood, so like it made sense to me. Like I was already like smoking cigarettes way beyond my but I was a seasoned 11 for the most part.
Right. So, well, that's really interesting. So you were a seasoned 11. I was very immature, like late bloomer, like kind of until, well, I've said this, I think I said on the previous episode, I put my adolescence went till I was about 22. And then I went through struggling through early adulthood to find my career and find my path. And like Pacey, I was very fortunate that my wife, she was just great. She was the perfect balance for me of like focusing me and challenging me to be better and all of those.
How old were you guys when you met again?
We met at 22. I met her 5 days into my first real job.
Yes, I see it.
I see it as I've met her 5 days into adulthood, right? Yeah. So it's like my whole adult life's been with her.
I think I might have told you this, but my brother met his now wife like right out of high school, like right when they were turning like 18, graduating and everything. And they've been together since. Like they've never broken up or anything. They got married right out of college. So yeah, I understand it. Like he had that, like he had the same type of things that you're describing. And then she came in and was kind of like that great influence in his life.
Yeah, it's like I needed that. Like I needed and she, so she was always like maturer than me and sort of more well put together and whatever, and just well balanced that way. And so it kind of just helped me. And so my point is that this is actually the perfect time for me to watch this show because to appreciate it. Like if I'd watched it when I was younger, I think I wouldn't have appreciated it for what it was, and to be able to relate to it. The thing that it does do is it makes me then look back on my own experiences in life and things and think, oh, crazy, like what these times are like being older now. Like I'm about to turn 34. in like 2 weeks. It's
Yeah, you said.
like, yes, it's a big age, isn't it? Almost.
You said 34?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I just turned 29. That was my existential crisis. In between our recordings, I turned 29, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
When my brother was this age, he was married and had 2 of his 3 children, and I'm like, I just bought a new Xbox.
That's good. It's like a child. It's
I baby the shit out of it. Yeah.
Clean it, I dust it. But I've lost track of what I was trying to say. I just
watching it now.
Oh, right. So yeah. And it kind of makes me realize how hard we are on ourselves at like these younger ages, and like how actually we all go through this stuff. I think we all have this feeling of when we're going through adolescence and these, developmental stages, it's all happening to us. It's like we're the only ones in the world that's having these struggles and dramas and whatever. And like time feel like we go through phases and different fashions, and I'm going to be into skateboarding, no, I'm going to be into this or this type of music or this or that, the other. But it's all so quick, and then it's like done. But you have to go through all of these things. You have to make mistakes, you have to do dumb things, you have to, and some people do many more dumb things than others, but it's all part of learning who you are. And I think Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, these are like great examples of flawed characters, because we are all flawed, and it's all part of our development as people, and so these shows always remind me of that. But Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill seem special to me. Like they feel on a different level. Perhaps we're just putting them on them as pedestals, but I think they deserve to be there.
No, I wouldn't say we're putting them on a pedestal, because look at how lasting they are. Look at how many people are still finding Dawson's Creek, still finding One Tree Hill. There's something there. There's something that resonates, that is lasting. That's why we're at some point going to be doing a discussion about podcast, the Drama Queens podcast, and how they're kind of talking about the writing of One Tree Hill, and I don't agree with that, what they've said, but like, there is something about this that works. And if you just view them as teen shows that are fluff, that are nothing, whatever, I think you are getting it wrong. Like, I think that you are maybe looking down on it because it's made for young people, particularly young women. I think that we look down on media that's made for young women. I think I might have discussed that in the last episode. I know I've talked about it with you. And we don't elevate it as much as we should. We put certain things on a pedestal, and other things aren't, done that way. And I think we're getting better at it as a society. But yeah, I don't, because there were so many shows that were good in this time, like, that were fun. But how many people do you know that have gone back and watched 90210, like the original?
No one.
None. Like, it doesn't sit with you. Do you know that many people that are getting into Gossip Girl now, watching the new one? Maybe they're going back and watching the old one, and that's not an insult to Betty's, and like I it's amazing and fun, but like, there's something about these shows, they're on that like other level, and there's something about them that you keep coming back to.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually think a lot of men would enjoy it if they allowed themselves to. I think it's some of the judgment of like, not, or thinking like what you just said, oh, this is like a girl show, or this is a whatever, but, or like soft or whatever. But the reality is, hey, we all went through this experience of growing up, so it's always relatable, in some form. I mean, it does. I think we spoke about this in the last episode, or it's difficult because we've had so many conversations on, whether it's on Ravens or whatever.
We try to save most of our stuff at least relating to Dawson's Creek for this, but like we still end up having some conversations off mic.
Well, I think we said that, that that it lacks diversity in the cast, which, so for some people it might not be as relatable, like
Absolutely,
and we've said that if this was made, today, we would hope that, it would be a more diverse cast.
Mm-hmm.
Brody's gone. He just vanished. Where is Brody?
Oh, Bodhi.
Oh, Bodhi.
Bodhi.
Do you know Brody is the name? Is Brody the name of the guy in Jaws? The lead character.
Chief Brody. Yeah. Which they reference on the show so much, I could see that being Bodhi. They will explain Bodhi.
Okay.
Bodhi is,
because it was like he's just gone. Like there was like no mention. I've been
they'll
spelling.
They'll mention it early in the next season. You'll understand where that character is. Okay. What's going on with him? So yeah. Well, but yes, it is like, it feels like a dropped storyline, and yeah.
I honestly, I think if more men tried these shows, they would like them. I think they would. I mean, we've got a decent amount of male following on our Ravens podcast and on this one on Dawson's Creek. I've been getting, I get messages from when I put the stories up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's still more female heavy.
I think that One Tree Hill is the easiest for men to like watch of all of these types of shows of, One Tree Hill, the OC, Dawson's Creek. We mentioned Gossip Girl, like any of these types of shows. The one that, even if you go into older, like Grey's Anatomy, what's gonna pull a guy in? Like, it's probably gonna be One Tree Hill.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people have asked me before. I mean, and you must have had this, where people find out that you do podcasting, and it's always this odd thing. Like, I don't really like telling people or talking to people about it that I know in my general life, because it comes with a flurry of other questions about it. And it's like, if you don't know, if you haven't chosen to listen to the podcast yourself, like if you haven't found it on Spotify, iTunes and whatever, then me telling you about it, it's never gonna be for you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I even feel that way about Lex and Matt's Excellent Adventure, my podcast, my main podcast. Like, trying to explain it, and like, we're friends. Like, we talk about weird things and sometimes are like weird emotional things that are going on with us, but also like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez getting back together. Like, like it's just it's a whole, sometimes it is hard to explain these types of things.
Well, but I often will. So if someone finds out, they'll be like, "So what do you podcast about?" And I was like, "Oh, One Tree Hill." What's that about? Oh, well, it's about brothers, basketball, whatever. It's like a basketball show. Oh, but it's it's like a teen drama and whatever. Oh, okay. So what, you like watch the episodes while you're recording the podcast? Like, no. Dom hasn't seen it, blah blah blah, and it just comes into this whole thing of you like having to over explain it.
Yeah,
it's like, it's just it's just not for you.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's really weird to try to explain it. Okay, so we've pretty much covered everyone but, and I lost my notes. There it is. Okay, we've pretty much covered everyone but Mitch and Gail, and then like Dawson and Joey of it all, and then Joey being like her own journey in this season, and her dad coming back and stuff, and that ending, like, it's huge.
Crazy.
Mitch and Gail doing their little open marriage shit.
Crazy.
It's fucking annoying. I'm very pro Mitch and Gail being a couple, so I don't like this storyline from that perspective. Like, I don't like that they're not together because they have such great chemistry.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I started this like in season 1. I like hated Gail so much for,
Yeah,
what she'd done and whatever.
she
And
deserves it in the
I,
beginning.
yeah, for sure. I never thought I would turn around so
Hmm.
quickly. Like by the like midway through this season, not only do I feel sorry for her, but I was just like, come on, Mitch, like sort it out. Like
Yeah.
she's
And
great.
you're also then you're like rooting for her to go live your life, go do your thing. Because
Yeah.
fuck it. Like I'm rooting for you now, you
And I
know?
think that's because Mitch, he kind of is there for a long period. It's like, what are you even doing? Like, what do you have a job? Like, as in, that it's not
Yeah.
like Dawson is like a little kid and needs, someone to be at home all of the time. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a
Which
stay-at-home
I
dad.
assume was his dynamic earlier in their marriage. I think he
Right.
was kind of a stay-at-home dad. Yeah.
And that's cool. Yeah. No, yeah, great. But does not need a stay-at-home dad now. Like
Yeah.
you need purpose, you need to be doing something. And so I'm glad they explained it eventually, and that he's an English teacher, and that's cool and
Mm-hmm.
makes sense for Dawson as a character. He's so
Mm-hmm.
articulate. Maybe this is where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But the whole open marriage thing, like, and again, we kind of we get it. Okay, he's her, and he's trying to make the marriage work, but we knew it was never going to work. But what was good about that situation was it showed Gail being patient, going along with it, but also not indulging in it. Apart from
Yeah.
she had a work colleague back once at the house, right? But it was like a
Mm-hmm.
work thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was sad. And then the
She
desperation
just
of Mitch proposing at the end, and
uh yeah.
yeah.
Do you agree with her choice?
So yeah, I
I do
do.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was curious if you also agree.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but it can't be on, they have to sort of go back to each other. It's almost a bit like a Nathan and Haley, they got to go
Yeah.
do their own things. But
Agreed. Yeah. That's a good, I didn't think of that. Yeah. Do your own thing, and if you're meant to be, it'll be, but that's not easy to deal with,
no,
and you see her pain for sure this season, his as well, but like, yeah, it's very painful. Like,
I thought he was going to get with Tamara at one point. I thought that was going to happen.
mhm.
Um, but it didn't. She kind of just left. But
I'm glad that would have been too weird.
yeah, I hated the performing arts drama. What is it? The teacher?
Yeah,
Is
from
it
uh from Twin Peaks, that actress Shelley or whatever.
right? Yeah. And like the episode when they're at the restaurant and
Oh
uh,
God, that episode. Yeah, because then Jen comes in with Gail,
yeah,
and it's and Dawson and Joey are back together at that point because they had just had the wedding. Which, by the way, them dancing at the wedding was so
that's
sweet,
great.
and getting
Uh,
back together, and they have that "Feels Like Home" song. Oh, that was so great, romantic and beautiful. Um, but they have this reservation. It's like, oh, I didn't realize there were two Learys, and then they have to like sit with each other. I
yeah.
will say though, Dawson, he is so bad at taking criticism,
Oh yeah.
so fucking bad at taking criticism, which is very accurate for the time, like the age that he's in. But like, God, that and okay, so I understand why he does it, but Dawson making a movie about his breakup immediately after, and like having Joey be involved to a degree, like
Yeah.
I and then they brought, what was it, is it Rachel Lee Cook or whatever, who was
Mm-hmm.
the She's All That actress? I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, was that like before She's All That? Was this like a big pull at the time? I don't know. um yeah, that episode though, the whole dinner dynamic was like, oh fuck, I hate this so much. And I agree, I hate that teacher. And if I was Mitch, I'd be like, you're fucking gone. Like, you can get along with my kid, you're
Yeah.
gone
Yeah.
instantly.
Just like crushing his dreams. That's why Joey was so great at she
Yeah.
basically got her to leave, didn't she, by sort of calling her out on it. Which so Joey's whole thing this season is that she like this is
She's like
some
finding herself.
finding herself, yeah,
Yeah.
and worried that her personality or her identity is like synonymous with Dawson,
Yeah.
that like she needs to be her own person. And I get all of that, but I did find it harsh at the beginning. She kind of just broke up with him out of the blue, out of nowhere, and they've kind of done it again, like at the end of this one. I
Well,
mean,
at the end, it makes more sense why she was like, you destroyed what family I had left.
okay, let's
Which
talk.
is
That we have to talk
okay.
about it.
Hold
We
on.
have to talk about
But
it
let me
because
talk about the beginning of the season breakup first.
okay,
I think that the beginning of the season breakup is for a very different reason, which is sometimes when people get what they want, everything that they want, they just freak out and run. And I think that that's the kind of person that Joey is. When she gets her heart's desire, she's like, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't know what to do," and she just runs. I think that that's what that breakup was. I think that's why she was running from him for so long. Even when he because remember in season 1 he started to want her, and she was like, "No, it's just the makeup. No, it's just this and that. You don't actually like me." She has a lot of insecurity, a lot of issues in that sense. The end of the season breakup is purely emotional. She's a fucking wreck. And honestly, if I was Dawson in that situation, I'd be like, we're not breaking up. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Whatever. Like, I'm gonna give you some space now for you to deal with your own shit. But like, no, I do not accept. Because your father just is now going back to prison after your family business was destroyed in a fire because he was a drug dealer.
right. And the fact that she was like, I can in time I'll forgive my dad. What? Okay, fine, great. But she will never forgive Dawson. For what? Just for telling her, for saying, oh, by the way,
For putting her in I mean, he does put her in the position of, if you don't go to the police, I will.
right.
It wasn't just telling her. It was, I will, because and he did it for an altruistic reason. He was saying, I'm protecting you, I'm protecting your sister, I'm protecting your nephew and your family business, your entire livelihood. He was doing the right thing. But I can also totally understand why Joey is like, why are you trying to ruin my family? Maybe there's another way around this. Maybe it's not your black and white world. Maybe there's a way to fix this without turning my father into the fucking police. Like,
but she then, that's true. But then she had the options because they sat down in the police station. Okay, it's a little bit far.
If you go to the police station, no, you basically run out of options. If he is presenting it to her as like, go to the cops or I will, you really don't have options. If he would have come to her and said, let's try to find a way. Look, I'm not saying he should have done this. I think what Dawson did was right, but I can also see why Joey blamed him to a degree. I don't think it was his fault. It was clearly her father's a piece of shit, and that's something she's going to have to reckon with in her life. But just like goddamn Sawyer, fucking Larry Sawyer, you piece of shit. Shout out to Ryan.
What you was talking about Lost then? I was like, wait, how are we going?
No. Larry Sawyer, Peyton Sawyer's father, who is, in my opinion, a notorious piece of shit. I understand why Joey is taking it out on him. He does take on that role of the punching bag in that moment. But he did do the right thing. It's just I could see her being like, you put me in a lose-lose situation because you see the world in black and white. Like, and then all of her anger is just channeled at him.
That's fair. But he was kind of in a corner of like, what could the problem
he's also in a lose-lose situation for sure.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that he should have just told her immediately, like, as in he went to her dad first and was like, hey, trying to say to sort it out and whatever. If he had just gone to Joey immediately and just said, hey, I just seen your dad in the back. He's got a couple bags of snow. I don't know what's going on,
Which, by the way, when they in that first season when they were like, my dad was trafficking marijuana or whatever, I was like, okay. And then in season 2, he's like pulling giant fistfuls of coke, like a fucking snowball, out of a bag. He's like, just cocaine. I'm like, wait a second, dude, you went way for, like, in the beginning you're like, oh shit, he's trafficking marijuana. You're like, shit, well, no one should be in jail for that. That's stupid. Like, it's legal, so that you can kind of laugh it off. But then when he's got the coke, you're like, whoa, maybe you are a bad dude. Like, maybe you are.
Here's the connect for Scarface, but
oh god, yeah.
But it's like, okay, if he had just told her immediately, then it's not his problem anymore. Like, I know that sounds like deep or whatever.
He can just, he can just support her. He can just be like,
what do you want to do? And I will. He went
to Mitch first. Who did he go to first?
Yeah. So no, he spoke to. I think he spoke to his mum, to Gail first, and she gave him the fatherly advice, and he was just like. But I think he was with both of them at by the end of it, and then I think it was Mitch that was saying, you just need to go to the police. So it's like, I mean, but the other thing is,
and his parents. That's, if my kid came to me with something like that, I would say the same thing. Like, yeah.
And he's just a teenager as well. Like, it's like, there's a lot of pressure to put on. Like, if that happened right now, and we're adults, like, it would still be like, oh, I don't really know what to do. But I think just immediately giving the information to the person that needs it is then kind of like, okay, the ball was in my court, I just quickly moved it over here. Now how can I help you, but you lead, because now it's in your court. If
I'm trafficking cocaine, please don't turn me in. Like, fistfuls. It was so much cocaine. Like, wow, they took off with this. But yeah, we can both. I'm with you on the, like, tell Joey first. She's the one who you're in a relationship with. She's the reason why you're tied into this. Like, and I also think there's a little bit of shittiness that he didn't assume that Joey would do the right thing. I think Joey would have come to the same conclusion had she, maybe the only thing she would have done differently is she would have gone to him without the wire first.
The wire was so deep, deep. I mean, I was trying to think about this. I was like, I mean, the thing is, my dad is like the best dad ever. So it's like, I know most
notorious cocaine smuggler, but a real good dude.
Fists of the snow. It's basically it's winter.
Massive snow. He puts them on snow cones. He makes a whole thing of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so it's difficult because he's such a good guy. But I could never imagine like ratting my dad out with a wire. Like, there's different levels of, like, I mean, it's different because she's trying to protect her family, I guess. And I'm assuming that she maybe did some sort of plea deal for him or something, and he would get less time if she helped get him convicted or something.
That, or she might have done some sort of deal where, like, her and Bessie wouldn't get in any trouble. I could see her being like, because it's happening on their property, like the ice house was their property. Bessie has all legal control over them, so I could see her being like, just make sure Bessie and I are free and clear of any, like, arson, like, all of these things come with huge consequences. So maybe she just, I would assume she got protections for her and Bessie, and that was kind of it.
Right. Well, it's rough. It's rough.
And I mean, and they lose their father. They also lose their livelihood at the exact same time. Like, what's going to happen there?
This was one of the few points where I think where my wife walked into the room, and I just like screamed at the TV, "She's wearing a wire!" So, like, oh my god. I was so shocked.
Yeah. Oh man. I didn't see that one coming either. I thought she was just confronting him normally. I remember that being like really shocking. Um, but yeah, so the season ends with them not being together, even though they just reunited and they were in really good terms. And I don't think. I mean, it's such a weird situation to be in that's driving them apart. But yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to me where season 3 picks up, like if there's a
Mm-hmm.
gap or
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not quite sure where we
There's a
are.
10-year time. No, I'm just kidding.
A good old time jump. I'm not sure whether like where we are academically in the year, like
Mm-hmm.
whether now it's like summer vacation or something, and we're going to pick up, at the start of the
I
next
think
school
this
year.
season was sophomore year. I think they've been in their sophomore year this whole time.
Is that the first year?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's second year.
Second year.
Out of 4.
Right.
So One Tree Hill, I think, starts the same way. I think it starts in the second year of 4 years. Yeah.
Can I just touch on one part that we did talk about, but just to put some more detail in, when Jack has the confrontation with his dad, where his dad's like by the door and they're like by the stairs in the house, and it's like when he's sort of coming out and whatever. That was so good, like the way it was acted and the intensity of it, and the actor playing the dad plays being a douchebag really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it was a really powerful scene. There was so many standout episodes. I like the episode where they flip into the pool at the end.
Yeah.
The all-nighter. That was a good one.
That was it was the same teacher that ends up bullying Jack, right? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were setting that up early, which was interesting. He's like a hard ass and selfish and everything, because he's like, oh, I have a cold, go do your own thing, whatever. Yeah, so they all went to Chris's house, which Chris is a douchebag, but like he's rich and it's interesting. And yeah, that had so much going on. That had the little sister interacting with Dawson, which was weird.
That was
and weird. Their whole dynamic, like but yeah, when they jump in the pool, that imagery, and then at the end when they're all sleeping on the football field, like they're all in a circle sleeping on the football field. I love that too.
Yeah, I like that. No, it's a different episode. I didn't like. I mean, it was a good episode, but I didn't like it when Jen sleeps with that guy when he's first introduced. And
Chris, that was that episode. Yeah.
And then the camera pans and there's like the empty like condom wrappers and stuff, and it's like, oh no, Jen, no, yeah. Oh god.
I wonder if they kind of had to show that, like they had to show condoms, if they had to show safe sex. I don't know what the rules were.
Maybe. Yeah, true. Well, we've had it all this season: arson, tons of cocaine.
Loads of cocaine, several mental breakdowns from various characters. Someone was gay. Someone died. Made a movie. Someone died. Yeah, Abby's dead, guys.
My god.
Did you think that character was going to be around long term?
Yeah, I thought she was going to have a whole redemption arc.
This is what I was trying to like not tell you, but I'm like, she's just a Mickey. Like, you think she's going to be? She's not a Rachel. She's a Mickey. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Maybe she actually is numbers of episodes more comparable to Rachel. But yeah.
I thought she would be in the like almost the whole way through it, but she would become good in the end, and there'd be reason behind it, and and so on and so forth.
They showed you hints of that at times, where they were like, oh, she's an interesting character. I don't know why they chose to kill her off, though. I don't remember.
The shock value of it was crazy. Like when the way that it, okay, she hit her head. When she hit her head, she then like sits up on the edge or whatever.
And Jen's laughing. And she's like, you bitch, or whatever. Like,
and I could see, I was like, oh, she's gonna fall in. Okay. Yeah. It's just going to be a thing. She falls in and Jen gets her or whatever, but it's going to be, I didn't think she was going to die. I was like, it's going to be fine.
No.
And then it just flips to Jen jumping in and I'm like, okay. The next thing, zipping up a body bag. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. And Jen's
Absolutely.
sitting there with like a freaking like blanket and freaking out. Oh, I love that too. When Jen is at Dawson's, and you made a joke about how they all go to Dawson's room all the time, but like
Yeah.
it is like a comfort place for so many of them. And like that night when they're all hanging out together watching movie night, like
Yeah.
everyone's getting along. Dawson gets along with Jack now. Like it's a whole different dynamic. It was amazing. Um, but when Jen is in that and she's like saying Abby died, it was Joey that went to Jen immediately and like put her arm around her and was like comforting her. And I think that moment is Joey being that way because she's like, I don't like the way Joey acts towards Jen a lot, but I think she definitely understands grief and loss. And I think she instantly in that moment gets past a lot of that bullshit and just sees a person grieving and is like, go time. Like, I'm here to be Jen's friend.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that all of the characters have such great depth. And yeah, I love the fact that his room is almost like Peyton's room in a way, that people don't knock on the door, they just arrive at her bedroom, right? It's kind of just like,
Yeah.
accessible. So no, yeah, I liked it
Uh,
all. I think
Agreed.
Dawson, we can't underrate Dawson either, like as in like the whole like inception of Jack coming out with the poem, not that he intended that to happen, all
Mm-hmm.
came from Dawson saying that
Yeah.
you have to sort of give some of yourself that is like the part that you keep for yourself, right? Or something along those
Right.
lines.
Right. Yeah. Kind of inspiring him to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I I have a theory, and this is not um there's no like there's this is purely my theory. I don't know if anyone else thinks this way. If you guys think this way or have thought this way in the past, please let me know because I'm very curious. I think that Jack wrote the poem about Dawson.
Oh.
And I think that he has or had some sort of feelings toward Dawson. And I think that was part of his interest in Joey.
Oh.
That's how I've always viewed it. As that it's like it was like competition, but it was really like interest. And then he's this poem is describing a male figure that he's lusting after that he can't have kind of thing. And like he can't like breathe, he can't do. And I was like, is it I kind of think it's Dawson, but I'm curious if anyone else like what your theories are. Do you think is it Pacey? Is it, or is it just maybe some random guy at school and we're not supposed to know who he is? Um
Wow.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
that's really
curious what
interesting.
people think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, people, put your comments in the comment section on YouTube or DM
No
us
no
on
spoilers,
Instagram.
but
Never.
unless you DM me specifically with spoilers, like that's okay, but not Simon.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, please don't comment any spoilers on YouTube because I will see them. And
Yeah.
I do not want to.
Um,
I don't want to
yeah.
see them.
Okay, so we did have questions and comments from listeners, which was asking what my favorite season was. Like I said, it's between 3 and 4. I'm going to assess that as we move forward, what I will pick then, but it's definitely between 3 and 4. Um, my gut is saying it's probably 4, but you guys will understand why I'm torn. Okay. We have some polls that we're going to put out, which we talked about, but we're going to vote in these polls right now on the show.
Okay.
And then we'll end with any other predictions you might have.
Okay.
Okay. First poll, Joey or Peyton?
Joey or Peyton?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Which
we're
one?
crossing universes.
These are all crossing universes.
Oh man.
This is a 2-to-2 comparison. Who are the most similar characters on each show? One Tree Hill versus Dawson's Creek. This is a Ravens tie-in. Dom, get it? No, I'm just kidding. Dom's here. So the first one, Joey versus Peyton.
Oh, that's easy for me. Joey all day. And
I
yours?
I love Peyton Sawyer. I'm going with Joey.
Oh.
I'm gonna save this one for later. Pacey or Nathan?
Oh man. Oh man. That's really
I'll
difficult.
answer this one first. It's Pacey.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
that's like I know Nathan so well. I
I
know him so
know.
well.
It's
Oh,
tough.
this feels like a
If
betrayal.
it helps, you can try to do only up to like through season 2 of each show. Like take out the future stuff that you know about Nathan, future stuff you know about Peyton, all that. If it helps, I guess. I
Oh,
don't think it will.
this is painful. This actually hurts.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to do.
Will Nathan or Pacey find out my decision? I don't want them to know.
If we get Joshua Jackson on the show, which I hope we do, we will edit this out. No.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say, if we're basing it just on season 1 and season 2, then I'm gonna say Pacey.
Okay. Yeah, this is guys, these are controversial, okay? This one's easy. Anna or Jack?
Jack.
Jack. Yeah, yeah. This was a fun one. Felix or Abby?
Abby. I hate Felix.
I hate Felix too, but you have to admit, very similar characters bringing in a lot of bullshit.
It's
A lot
true.
of bullshit.
I think I don't know if you. I don't
I
know
would go
if
with Abby as well, by the way.
Okay. I don't know if you've listened to some of our podcast episodes on Ravens talking about Felix, but apparently the
Yeah.
actor in real life is a douchebag and grabby, let's say, at conventions to female fans and things like this. So we kind of
Banish
just,
him.
yeah, so we kind of like, as much as Felix is a complete douche, the actor's a douche as well. It kind of like just double douche. So I was kind of always just going to vote against him, you know?
Mm-hmm. Jen or Brooke?
Oh,
Both party girls, both.
I'm going to go with Brooke on this one. I
I
think you are
I
too, aren't you?
I have to go with Brooke Davis. Come on, I have to go
Yeah,
with Brooke Davis. But they're very similar in my mind.
I can see that.
Haley or Andy?
Uh,
Very once again, very similar. Tutor
yeah.
girl. Tutor girl vibes. Tutor girl turning the bad boy around, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, you've done this very well. I'm gonna go with Haley on this one because she's really. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go with Haley on this one. What about you?
Um, Even if we're just saying season 1 and 2, and Haley's difficult in season 2,
Oh God, she
we
is.
all
Yeah,
have our thoughts on Haley in season 2. I still would go with Haley despite loving Andy. There's just something about Haley.
yeah.
And now the final. Dawson Leary or Lucas Scott?
Lucas Eugene Scott.
Lucas Eugene Scott, yeah.
I mean, uh, you know how earlier you were saying about how people were influenced by media and people might read a comic book and they say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I want to be more like Superman.
Yeah.
When I watched this, when I was like 23, I was like, I want to be more like Lucas Scott. And what's funny since doing the podcast and Ravens and everything is so many people hate him.
I do not hate Lucas, and I hate some of the things that he does. There are moments where I'm like, "Fuck you, Lucas," but like, I don't hate Lucas. I don't hate Dawson either. Lots of people you've heard our list, lots of people hate Dawson. I don't hate Dawson.
They do,
Um,
yes. And
this
they're
is
very
this is actually a difficult question for me as well,
well,
but I know
they're
who I'd pick.
Well, they're very similar, but what I like about both of them is they're well intentioned. They
Yeah,
mean well. They're not
yeah.
trying to cause pain and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but they are flawed. They make mistakes. They do dumb things, and but I did plenty of dumb things. We all do dumb things and make
Yeah.
mistakes and whatever. But I definitely see myself with their sensibilities, more so Lucas, but. I would have to say Lucas. I can't go against him, but I could. It's a very close. It's not close for me, but it's very. I can see how it'd be close for people. Can I
Yeah,
guess for you? I'm going to assume. Oh, it's actually hard. I think you're probably going to. I think I'm going to say Dawson because this is like your OG show. So.
it is my OG show. I pick Lucas. I
Oh.
do pick Lucas. Yeah. I like Dawson. And Lucas has a lot of flaws, especially some of the stuff he does in the first season and things like that. But I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, like you said, they both have good hearts and everything like that. I think that Lucas, sometimes Dawson can be a shitty friend, or he has blind spots that I think Lucas has blind spots as well, but like I can suffer his a little bit more, and like I can see his evolution a little bit more. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't hate Lucas. I don't hate Dawson, but between the two of these guys, especially if we're doing season 1 and 2, like Lucas Brooke dynamic, huge fan of. So yeah, I would choose Lucas in this scenario.
So we agreed on all of them except for
Uh oh, what's
Peyton,
the
was
wrong
it?
one? No, no, no.
No,
I put
you agreed on that as well, wasn't it?
you picked Casey. We didn't disagree on any of them, did we?
We are the same.
I mean, we do view, I think we have a lot of the same views on One Tree Hill as well.
Hmm.
Not 100% on that, but
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay, so then the last thing would be, do you have any predictions other
So
than what you've already said?
yeah, so I have the prediction that Andy will come back and Pacey will be with someone else, and I feel like it will be Joey. I feel like that would just be the ultimate spanner in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe Jen and Dawson will get back together. I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
As for Jack, I'm not sure what will happen with him. I was really glad that he was staying.
Yeah.
I hope that he continues throughout the seasons. But I think he might be maybe like a Jake in One Tree Hill character. He might be around and then go off for a bit and then come back
Mm-hmm.
for a bit. But uh, who knows? I'd like it if he stayed the whole
Mm-hmm.
run though. I think I guess eventually they'll bring a love interest in for him, but I don't know what that will look like because he already didn't. He had the opportunity to date that photographer guy and he wasn't ready, which I thought was
Yeah.
that was good.
Yes, that was very, very good.
I think Pacey's going to go off the rails for the first half of this season, like with sort of heartbreak from with Andy, but potentially he'll have some nice things with his dad. Mitch, Gail's going to be gone, so what will Mitch? So there'll be some drama with Mitch. I'm going to say there's going to be a car crash this season. We had the fire
Mm-hmm.
last season. I think it's time for maybe a car crash where the car goes into like the creek and it starts to
Oh,
sink.
that's where they get the name.
Because Dawson's dead. So they called the creek after him.
This is actually Dawson haunting the creek. That's why it's his creek.
That's it. And there's plenty of snow and cocaine all around for everybody.
Oh yeah, yeah. That explains it.
Joey, I think Joey's going to be in a dark place because of her dad and everything. So
Yeah.
where will she go?
And like her family losing everything, their business and stuff.
Yeah, who will she even be friends with? I guess maybe she will. Maybe she will get close to Jen. Maybe like Jen and Jack. They'll sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to know. I would ask
Mm-hmm.
you your predictions, but I can't. But
We already talked about it. Cocaine heaven.
yeah. I guess there would be an episode of Joey going to visit her dad again, maybe, and like confronting him, and
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they'll just leave that. Maybe that's done because I mean he must be going away for a long time, right?
Yeah, I would assume with cocaine, like, that's like a hard drug. And her mom died when she was like 8, I think, something like that. She's 16, so he's been away for at least like 7 or 8 years, at least, maybe a little bit longer if she died, because her mother was dying and her dad was trafficking the marijuana and having an affair, like at the same time. So like her dad's like actually way worse than Larry Sawyer. As much as we hate that goddamn sailor, like these jokes are only for Ryan, who will never listen to this because he doesn't like Dawson's Creek. It's no insult to the show. He just doesn't like Dawson's, like to our show. He just doesn't like Dawson. And fair. Yet, if you say Larry Sawyer around, oh, that bitch. So I would assume that like he's at least going to be away into her 20s, like he's got to get at least a decade for that,
maybe a decade, maybe 10 years out in 5, but like even still, that's probably she'll be towards the end of college or something.
It's all of her childhood. Like he's missed almost all of it, like all of those early years,
for sure.
And it sounds like even then her mom was the anchor of the family. Like, her dad was always kind of a deadbeat.
Talking about childhood, when, as I said mine earlier, when do you see your adolescence ending? Like, as in, where did you feel like you transitioned to adulthood?
It was like probably around 20, I think. Well, that's a loaded question for me, where I'm like, when do you start to like, okay, when do I feel like my childhood was gone? Like 9 years old. Like I did not have a good childhood, as we've established. And even then, like looking back now, even the years before that, there was always a lot of bad stuff involved with my childhood. Unfortunately, it's fun, but like adolescence ending, I would say like 2021, somewhere in that range. Yeah, that's kind of where I felt like, I remember turning 21 and things feeling different, feeling like something was gone,
Right. Yeah. But and I guess 21 is a bit of a bigger deal in the States, right? Because
drinking age, yeah. You can do everything at that point. You can do everything except rent a car.
How old do you have to be to rent a car?
25.
Oh, that's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy.
And now you can't, they changed the laws, but like you can't buy cigarettes or anything like that until you're 21. It used to be 18. Joining the military is 18. Getting married is 18. Sometimes 17, depending on the state. So yeah, it's weird. It's all random ages.
That's like Haley's dad's speech, right, at their engagement wedding party or whatever. Well, I think that the title of this podcast, Capeside Chats, is perfect because we basically just have a chat that is structured, but just a good conversation about this, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm thinking about the hoodies and t-shirts. I feel like, what if we have so black hoodie, classic, we have a black and a white, the inverted colors, and it has in the Dawson's Creek font, Capeside Chats, a Dawson's Creek podcast. And then what if we had just an image of Joey's boat, but without her in it, just underneath,
just like on the creek, and like there's just like little water, like a stencil type of look.
Yeah, just underneath it, and maybe dope. Just like in the center, just nice, like not too big, just like it's happening. It we'll make it happen.
Yeah, get that merch.
Awesome. And that people, listeners, friends, let us know how you're enjoying this. Like, if there's other aspects you want us to cover, if there's things you want us to talk about more or less,
you can go vote on that poll. The poll that we just went through is going to be on Simon's Instagram after this episode comes out. So vote. We can share the results on the Instagram as well.
For sure. Well, I really enjoy these. This is so much fun, and it's like I love the fact that usually you watch a TV show and then you don't really talk about it. You just move on. I love the fact that it's like, okay, we we're going to watch this for a month, and then I get to have like, a great conversation with you about it, which is awesome. So yeah,
it makes the experience really fun to like be able to, like, I'm watching it and I'm just enjoying watching it again, but I know I get to have this conversation at the same time. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and this structure is so much fun as well, like the just it being so much more free, and just we just have this one, then that's season 2.
Yeah, we're through a huge portion of the show just like that.
Awesome. Well, I reckon it's probably gonna be about a month for each season, so we'll be back in about a month's time with season 3, episode 3 of the podcast, dripping in merch and cocaine. I mean, just merch.
We're putting cocaine in the orders, right? Like, no, we're not.
These are jokes. These are jokes. Don't report us. These are jokes. Don't wear a wire, Joey. Excellent. So how do we sign this off? Back to you, Bob. So throwbacks to the pilot.